This world has so much turmoil and strife, and things to give man horrors in life. So much torment, misery and pain, all taking toll on the human brain. You're shooting and looting, disputing, revoluting. So now this world and all its affairs slowly drowning in human tears. It's tears of tribulation, out of frustration, of futility, of anxiety. People bawling, teardrops falling, people crying, crying the whole a river of tears, river of tears, river of tears, river of tears, crying the whole a river of tears.
Share the love, share love.
All right. While politicians living it up, institutions become more corrupt. Vagrants and destitutes on the street, infants with simply nothing to eat. Is arming, disarming, alarming, droughts and famine. The overlords and the chosen few, making the whole world blue. It's tears caused by agony, tears caused by tyranny, for the many slaves, like the falling rain. People bawling, teardrops falling, people crying, crying the whole a river of tears, river of tears, river of tears, river of tears, crying the whole a river of tears. Ah, yeah. Ah. Capitalism and apartheid, communism on the other side. Every system have their axe to grind, bringing despair to the human mind. Disruption, destruction, invasion, assassination. Government troops and government spies putting water in people's lives. It's tears in Ethiopia, in South Africa, tears in Afghanistan, flood in Pakistan. People bawling, teardrops falling, people crying, crying the whole a river of tears, river of tears, river of tears, river of tears, crying the whole a river of tears.
Share the love, share love.
People bawling,
Yes, you heard it. Rivers of Tears by the man Baron. I'm DJ Maurice and I'm coming to you live and direct from my bunker this evening. It's today, Wednesday, July the 9th, 2025. And I'm going to be having two special guests with me this evening on the panel. The man known as Mr. Oakland Benter out of the Virgin Islands. We're going to speak to him shortly. And our local icon here, the man Dr. Garth Alexander. But my good people, if you're just scrolling the web and bump into us and wondering what this podcast is all about, let's take a quick listen to an ad to just update you and what we do here on a Wednesday evening.
Wednesday evenings are heating up. Log on to DJ Mauritius's Facebook Live broadcast every Wednesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. It's a frank and a candid exploration into the social, cultural, political, and economic issues affecting our federation. And just in case you missed it, you can also catch the broadcast on his YouTube channel, DJ Mauritius. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube and smash that bell. You will be notified whenever he goes live. DJ Mauritius, every Wednesday evening, Facebook 6 to 8 p.m. or thereafter on his YouTube channel, DJ Mauritius. Log on.
Yes, you heard it right. That's DJ Maurice. We're here every Wednesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Now let's take a run across to Nevis. I hear my boy Carbo have to say to us this evening.
Cabos, located at Fountain Village in Nevis, is the go-to spot for your Saturday treat. Tantalize your taste buds with his delectable Cabos Delicacy Goat Water. Or, if you prefer some soul food, then Cabos Punji and Fish is definitely the way to go. Call ahead and reserve at 869-663-9694. Then make your way over to Cabos and enjoy the vibrant atmosphere while you savor your delicacy. Cabos, we are not changing, we are only improving.
Food all over, food all over. You got the food all over.
Yes, Brother Carbo has the food all over Nevis there. And I was accosted by Brother Carbo over the weekend there, Saturday, with the Mango Fest. They had some folks came in enjoying themselves, big numbers. Proud of my boy Carbo to be able to accommodate a crowd of that magnitude. So, Brother Carbo, congratulations, and I'm happy that your goat water is making it in leaps and bounds around the globe. Now let's take a quick listen to my girl, Sister Carmen of Carmen Caterers.
Girl Sandra, you know where you can find nice fresh local food 7 days a week, one provision and all kind of thing. Girl, where? Right down there by Shellings, by Carmen Catering Services. Girl, she opposite the bus stop. Girl, and she also cater for weddings, parties, anything you want to cater for, funeral and all. Girl, and trust me, you're gonna enjoy the food. And she also selling bites and Sundays. Opposite the car shop, right down the main road. Girl, you could call 665-1494 or 663-6005 to order your food or go and pick up your food. Girl, the food will be finger licking and you get your money worth. You ain't want nothing better than that.
Yes, you heard it right. Sister Carmen is there at the West Ferry Terminal, right there, Share Lane, opposite the West Ferry Terminal, Monday to Saturday, 12 noon till about 5 p.m. On a Sunday. You catch it in Boyd's Village, right opposite the Agaro shop in the bus stop there, doing the stuff. So let her know DJ Maurice sent you. Now let's take a quick listen to my boy there, Brother Aston Coker, see what Brother Coker have going on there. 3 years auto services.
Attention vehicle owners and operators. Your driving experience just got better. Yes, you heard it right. 3A's Auto Services, located Main Street, Sandy Point, St. Kitts, where you have tire sales and installation, vehicular repairs, and other services. You can reach Mr. Aston Corker at 869-664-2204, 869-667-2071, or 869-665-0605. Yes, 3A's Auto Services, located at Main Street, Sandy Point, St. Kitts, just above the Brimstone Hills Fortress. And you can reach out to them for emergency roadside services. Remember, Brother Aston Corker is available 24/7. Just call those numbers.
I just want to drive your motor car. I just want to drive your motor car. Drive it. Drive it. Give me one. Hey. Give me two. Hey, hey.
Yes, that's Brother Aston Corker there. 3A's Auto Services, Main Street, Sandy Point, St. Kitts. Now let's take a quick run across the Station Street, Dane Road, and hear what my boy Geejo have to tell us.
Check out Geejo's Bar at Station Street, Old Road, this and every Saturday for the best bullfoot, good water, conchs, bigfoot, and cook up. If you're in the mood, we also serve garlic bread, fried fish, green salad, and burgers. So remember, the place to be is at Geejo's Bar, where you can enjoy Ludo games, snake and ladder, dominoes, listen to music all night, and sip on some cold drinks. Yes, it's all happening this and every Saturday at Geejo's Bar, Station Street, Old Road.
You heard it right. Check out my boy Geejo's right there at Station Street, Old Road. Look forward to seeing my boy Geejo's on the weekend. Now let's take a skip across to the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas to be exact, and hear what my boy Malvern Gums of the Spectrum Band have to say about the DJ.
Hey, this is Malvern from Spectrum Band, and you're listening to DJ Marisha, playing you the best in Caribbean music.
You got that.
Hey, this is Malvern from Spectrum Band, and you're locked into DJ Marisha. Keep it locked.
Right there. My good people, just before we get into the introduction of my guests, let me drop this clip of one of our icon, the man himself, Dr. Garth Alexander, giving his assessment of the DJ.
DJ Marisha, I don't want you guys to take your eyes off him. Remember, he's been around for some time. Let's go back to COVID and lockdowns. The gentleman came in, was locked down in quarantine, and then realized the total hypocrisy, tyranny, and oppression of the then administration during our most horriblest time. Spoke out. Not only spoke out, became an activist. And then you know what he did? Organize and centralize. And he never stopped organizing and centralizing until Timothy was gone. I don't even want to talk about the involvement he had before and the Douglas administration and the Harris. We ain't gonna talk about that. I'm just talking that during COVID, that man, both on this front, locally, and in the US, waged war against tyranny and oppression. One simple man. A DJ as he calls himself. He never called himself an engineer or anything else. Just a DJ. Because he understands the power of voice. And not just voice. Autonomous, independent, honest, transparent voice always wins in the end. So it could be persons with unlimited power and unlimited money. He somehow always becomes the David against the Goliaths. Be careful with him. Be kind to him. Watch him. Because trust me, he's going to triumph in the end again.
Yes, gentlemen, tap your screen, open your mic there, Brother Benter. Good evening. As you guys, as you guys are aware, this platform is growing with viewership by leaps and bounds on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. So I'll ask you guys to just give a quick synopsis of who you are so that the folks will know who we're conversating with tonight. And following that, I'm going to play a clip of Brother G.A. Dwyer Astafan's commentary for today, and then we're going to get straight into the conversation. So, Brother Bento, you're up.
And thank you, and good evening to you and your listening viewers online, as well as the guests that's on with you this evening as well. My name is Oakland Benta, and I hear from the U.S. Virgin Islands. I'm an ex-chief of police, an ex-senator, and an ex-vice president of a telecommunication corporation that has offices all over the world, as well as a in-depth affiliate and a person who works very close with many other agencies within governments. So I'm pleased to be with you this evening, along with your guests, and I know it'll be a robust show this evening. Thank you.
Tonight, because last week he was banned, so it was interesting to hear so that he will follow right after us. I had to mention that. That was just too that was too juicy not to touch. But I think the right for me being here is just being a conscious human being. Because what we're going to very slowly understand in this world that we're currently living in this age of Aquarius, is that borders, boundaries, institutions, they're slowly being decimated, and they're not being decimated by any outward forces. It's because they were so unnatural that they're disintegrating themselves and eating themselves. I call it cannibalism. So my right for being here is just being able to just be alive in this time and be able to understand that as an autonomous and free human being, I could speak up. I could say what I don't like. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me educational level or what titles I carry or where I was before. I can speak up. Yeah, so that's me. That's me. Me set up.
But Alexander, one thing I can say about Dwyer Astafan since I met him, we have always pride ourselves and telling each other how we feel without getting upset at each other or having any kind of falling out. So when I speak from a position of love and passion. And that documentary, I must say, that commentary by Dwyer last week just did not sit well with me. So
none of us.
Right.
And
So
I'm glad how you put it up, because iron sharpens iron.
yeah,
Like all of us are, so even when we are steadfast and upful men, we need upful men around us, because sometimes we're going to falter. So he's in the upfulness of the group and looking at one and saying, yeah, I could falter at some point, but other man gonna pull me up. That should be gratitude. I should look forward to that.
correct. And I could say in advance, even though Dwyer did not go as deep as I think he could have with the knowledge that he have of what's taking place, he made an effort this week. And I want to share that commentary with the rest of the general public. So stand by, please.
Greetings. Let us today consider some good governance and related matters in our country. The slowness with which the Integrity in Public Life Commission has been operating is a matter of grave concern to me. And there are at least two reasons for this slowness. One, fiddling and fumbling by both the administration and the opposition in recommending their respective nominees to the Integrity Commission. And two, insufficient resources. Possibly a third reason, which is that perhaps decision makers are afraid of having the Integrity in Public Life Commission fully set up and operating. You need to ask yourselves these questions as you observe those who are in government, those who are in opposition, those who lead, those who have led, and those who want to lead. We really have to decide whether this sort of stuff will be allowed by us or not. And as I make this point, I do not want those who were in high office before and those who are seeking power again or for the first time to believe that they are getting a free pass with this, because who were there before did absolutely nothing of consequence to introduce and insist upon integrity in public life. Indeed, the whole place was contaminated. And going right back to 1982, when the then PAM NRP administration leaders bluntly and arrogantly refused to include integrity in public life provisions in the country's constitution, despite the pleadings and protestations of the Labour Party. back then. And unlike the Labour Party back then, the Labour Party of Denzil Douglas also seemed to have little appetite for integrity in public life legislation. Remember, they only passed an IPL Act in 2013, and that was incomplete, and it was totally a political pre-election stunt. And don't talk about the banditry that took place between 2015 and 2022. So now, today, we are told that the Integrity Commission is fully constituted and can now have its first meeting in about a year. The first meeting in about a year. A clear sign of not only the slowness, but the stall that the commission went into. But who is deciding who goes on the commission? Who funds the commission? And the net effect of all of this has been that nearly 400 declarations of personal worth have been filed between last year and this year, following the operationalization of the Act. And it is very unlikely that all 400 or anywhere near close to 400 have been thoroughly examined. Resources, where are they? Is this a straight case of incompetence, or is it evidence of intent to slow the process? Run the clock. Has it been more talk than action? Either way, this brings no joy to us. We want transparency in government and across the board in the country. We have to clean up our country, and we have to make it, in every sense of the term, the Garden of Eden, which Marcus Garvey told us that it was. And this is not intended to accuse anyone of anything immoral, unethical, or illegal. But again, how can one be comfortable and be assured that these things, these 400 declarations, have been scrutinized? Statistically, one would not be surprised to be told, seeing that it is 400, that maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of them raise a question and call for inquiry through the White Collar Crime Unit, through the Director of Public Prosecutions Unit, and so forth. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but statistically, with 400 declarations, one does not in the real world expect all of them to be acceptable. And the country needs to know this cloak and dagger, opaque, hide-and-seek way of running things is not healthy for us. There are so many avenues for corruption in the public service, especially because there are so few checks and balances. Too many scamps are on the loose, in uniforms, dressed up clothes, and across the board. Too many scamps. All the more so when some people in the public service, even below the level of integrity in public life scrutiny, people who have never known an additional source of income or substantial income, with bank accounts in the high 6 digits, in the 7 digits, even in the 8 digits, people and their better halves flashing in plain sight $20,000 watches, $5,000 bags, $200,000 to $300,000 vehicles, $2 million houses, multiple properties, $3,000 and $4,000 outfits, $10,000 and $1,500 shoes, and so on a public service salary. Let me get back to the IPL for a moment. Please note that along with the Constitution and the Freedom of Information Act and some other laws, the Integrity in Public Life law and the Commission is one of the people's guardrails against excesses and corruption by top public officials. And as to the Freedom of Information Act, getting information under this act is like trying to pull horse teeth with a tweezer. Again, cause for concern as to whether this is deliberate, and if so, deliberate to keep people ignorant and to protect a few. I'm asking because the difficulties that the public still has navigating these things is very troubling. Why should we be experiencing these difficulties? If the success of the few depends on the ignorance of the many, especially in cases of public service, then we need to call Jesus into the temple, let him shake it out and clear the temple of the scribes and Pharisees and money changers. Then we have the Public Accounts Committee, a watchdog for the people, another entity that seems to be in a state of torpor. Who is protecting the people? It is not mechanisms, it is not laws that protect people, It's people who protect people. Then there is the Procurements Act, which is a weak and dangerous act, full of loopholes. The Organization of American States told us that in 2019, and the government then and the government now promised to upgrade the procurement legislation, to close those loopholes, to provide greater transparency. It has not happened. All of these things are critical cogs in the wheel of good governance, and all are faulty. Why? Now, with regard to the public service, while I'm happy to say that there are many efficient and suitably trained and qualified people, it is equally and painfully obvious that the service has been politicized, overstaffed, and underproductive for years, for decades, with more than its fair share of corruption. Yet, where are the signs of the cleanup and the improvement? The public service payroll is nearly $30 million a month. That's $350+ million a year, which you have to pay. And the more political and the less productive they are, the harder it is for us. And it is our money that pays them from top to bottom. Let me remind you that if corruption, for example, accounts for 10% of the country's gross domestic product, then you, the taxpayers, are being robbed of about another $300 million every year just from corruption in the public service. Of course, corrupt public servants often interact with people in the private sector and in the community to run their bubble. Here are some scenarios to ponder upon. One, we have seen individuals coming into the public spotlight. When they come in, they are unable to rub two $100 bills together and snap, even on a limited salary. They own a $250,000 vehicle. I know of an instance, at least one, where such a person got a $40,000 gift to make a down payment on the vehicle. They can reorganize their personal difficulties just in public office, Fix up things. Find millions of dollars to spend on a public servant's salary, limited salary. Any unjust enrichment is providing the cash for that. Any inquiries, any cases, any punishment? Have you heard of any? I have not. A number of cases like that at different levels. Secondly, high-level officials circling the globe business class, even short flights, staying in top hotels and providing nowhere near the returns on investment of the people's money for all that upping and downing around the world. I mean, speaking about upping and downing, and this is not to impugn the character of the gentleman, but speaking of upping and downing, how many days in the last 35 months has Dr. Douglas spent in St. Kitts? And what returns have we had for that? And then we move on. What about all of these sexual predators and pedophiles who get away, maybe get a tap on the wrist and walk free to go and carry out the sexual predation and pedophilia in the community? What about the misappropriators? What about the kickback kings and queens? What about the misuse and abuse of public property? What about the misuse and abuse of office? Some of them use their power as weapons against subordinates or against people with whom they have a personal beef. Some of them use their office, misuse of the office, abuse their office to grant favor of things that are not theirs to give, forgetting they are just trustees of these things. And others look for a piece of the action when business proposals reach their desks. Past and present. The picture is not a pretty one. And with this widespread corruption almost reaching a point, not just in the public service, but in the community at large, becoming systemic, then if other people define and describe us as a corrupt country, then we will only have ourselves to blame. And we will pay the price, because corruption in and of itself already has a price. I told you about the corruption as measured against the GDP of the country. Inefficiency causes prices to rise. Poor management causes prices to rise and costs. We really and urgently need to decide what kind of country this one will be. We don't have to wait for a crowd to join the choir. Every voice is important, just like every vote is important. I am pleading with you, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, sober up from the political drunkenness which has inhabited our heads for so long. Think independently and fairly and reasonably. And I hope that if you engage in that process, you will come to the conclusion that we need to clean up the country, starting with ourselves. We need to clean up the country. If our children and grandchildren are to inherit a legacy of honor, we have to clean up the country. If our friends in the region and beyond are to respect our country as a noble, honorable, dignified, highly successful little country. We have to take a stand and end incompetence and corruption. This is important and this is urgent. Thank you.
Yeah, gentlemen, that was Dwyer's commentary for today, Wednesday 9th, July 2025. As I said, he did not go full throttled like I would like to hear, but he touched a couple of things. Stop your screen, open your mic. He did touch some of the pedophiles and some of the corruption that is taking place in our beloved federation. And I know he know the names and individuals of whom he's referring to. And I know he's not going to call the names, but we know. He and I knows better who they are. So tap your screen, open your mic, Garfield. You guys have any comments on Dwyer commentary?
I will yield to the doctor who's online with us.
Mr. Benta, I would really prefer for you to take lead, but I can take lead. I want to be as open and as transparent as possible, because I think they're going to set the example for everybody else that we're trying to influence and inform. Yeah. So under the previous administration, I got a call from a very close friend of mine, and this close friend is very powerful now, Naima Hazel. And she called me, as a concerned friend. And it's not that I wasn't getting a lot of concerned calls, because I wasn't pulling any punches on social media, and my social media, just to show you the cycle of petitions that I see it as the equivalent of me staying from my yard and just making my voice heard. The things that disrupt me and people being upset by that. Because if I get on my social media platforms and decide, all right, this is my opinion, that's what social media is all about. And she called, and lots of people called me and told me that I don't like how we're looking, how a doctor should act, and all the other pressures. But I specifically heeded the call from her because of the person I know her to be. And because she's also a very trained therapist. And she told me, no, this isn't right. And I met her and we spoke, and it was almost like a therapy session. We didn't even talk about just me and my social media persona. We spoke of all aspects and all layers of me as a man, as a clinician, and we really went into it. And I divulged a lot of info because that was one of the first steps into me coming into being and really being mature self, right? And we spoke about accountability. And so today, when you spoke about Dwyer, and then I see you keep hinting for him to hold people accountable. Today I did some research and did some self-therapy and accountability. And I just want to read what I found, because I think it was truly helpful to me. Like, I recognize I was very angry. The same thing she picked up. And why I was angry is because of the betrayal. And Dr. Marisha and I spoke about that betrayal and who we felt betray us. And that was centered to it. And as a result of that, there was some jealousy and some narcissism on my part. I'm speaking on my part, right? And the therapist that I was seeing at the time told me, it's just not only that, because I didn't believe. He started pointing out what are the symptoms of me being jealous and being a bit narcissistic with the way I was approaching my accountability or holding people accountable. And he said, you're on a witch hunt. And I identified that is true in some aspects. And you're triangulating, and I shouldn't be triangulating, because the people that I'm concerned about, the people that I want to hold accountable, are triangulating, and I shouldn't be triangulating as the upful person here. And I felt that. And I was demonizing, because I felt like I needed to go hard and punch hard. And I don't need to do that, because these people are very corrupt. And just by calling them corrupt, that's all. I don't need to go overboard. So I identified with that as well. And this cancel culture, because St. Kitts, we don't have the human resource for me to cancel some of the persons whose bank accounts I've seen. Some of the persons that, like, I know live in very poor villages, and the amount of zeros that I saw, like it's not natural in the environments in which they live. It doesn't speak well of these persons that own or have this amount of money and could sit in the suffering of others who they call and say they love. Meaning, talking about politicians, I'm talking about the micro here, because the macro is the politicians and the corruption, but the micro is the persons that not only facilitate it, but just turn a blind eye to it. And some people who defend it. Yeah, 'cause on a very personal level, I worked for nearly 20 years in the civil service. And after I see what was going on, especially when I was made the CEO of cannabis, and I started to be in certain rooms and really try to understand cannabis as a commodity and a product, I really needed to understand the other commodities and products that we have nationally or say we have nationally. So it made me make a very deep introspective look of not just me, but the whole civil service. And I didn't like what I see. And I didn't. The people that I know, I love, and I know were loving persons I didn't know, I didn't like what they became. So I said I didn't want to be a part of that. And even now, yesterday was the 8th of July. And since last year, I've been, I could call it serving a sentence of vacation. As in, I accumulated so much vacation leave that I didn't take because of how I overworked myself in those 20 years. That I had enough to last me from last year till now. And even now, after meeting with the head of that service of human resource, meeting with everybody, meeting with payroll, nobody can give me an account of where I am. Nobody could say, what's deserving to you? Here it is, or here is what we think you deserve. Nobody has had a conversation after several trials. I spoke of being the CEO of cannabis, traveling all over the region, investigating, trying to, give myself that oomph. And for those nearly 3 years, I'm still being paid under my DMO salary, and I retired under my DMO salary, even though I'm told I'm the acting CEO. That was a mistake on their part. I met with the director, met with the head, and everybody seems apologetic. Everybody seems mild and mannered. And I still haven't gotten what is deserving unto me. But yet, I could see bank accounts. I could see expats and foreign direct investors being facilitated in everywhere, even before they prove themselves. Even before they've proven themselves. Even before they were vetted. So it makes me seriously question all these people that are around, all the fail-safe mechanisms. Dwyer spoke about integrity commission. Even before it arrives there, we have principals, we have policemen, we have white-collar crime, we have DPP, AG. We have all these titles that I could speak of me as a young black boy going into a black man, fearing those institutions and these titles and thinking that these people were not here to serve or protect me. So I had to avoid them, and to see them sit idly by, knowing this, including Dwyer. Yeah, it makes me how do I approach accountability? And that's an answer that I needed. And then the answer that I got, I really didn't like, because they told me that accountability is family and community. So I shouldn't be holding certain people accountable. So Dwyer, the persons of his ilk, and the people of his surrounding, and his family members and extended persons, he's supposed to be calling them out by name. Even before he get public to call out Douglas, even though Douglas is as a part of his group, a part of his family, so he can't call out Douglas. But I'm showing you, there's several persons who Dwyer is avoiding calling, and they've offended and attacked him, and he's avoiding calling them. I'm just trying to show you how it is now. Mm-hmm. So I must first start to call out my family, and that's what I did. There's nobody who is a part of the SKNLP who doesn't understand, who doesn't know where I stand. That's why I was being avoided. That's why I was being excluded from certain rooms, because they know how I will stand. And they know I will call a spade a spade. So in some respect, I could say, all right, they respect me, but you could imagine being marginalized after being integral. But anyway, I'm straying from the point. They went on to say that it's not only family and community that has to be the ones holding you accountable, because they're the only ones that can. He went on to say that it's supposed to be a restorative process. And I had to identify with that, because I was saying before, we have small country of 68 square miles. We don't have that much human resource to be doing what we're doing. So when I look at my history and take a really introspective look and see from since 1980, we haven't had a leader with balls, with cojones, with a leader that just could say no. A leader that just had to follow the example of Bradshaw. We haven't had one. So the restorative process, I can now go and destroy all these men. I can't. I could call them out, but who reside with them, who benefited directly from them, have to call them off us. Otherwise we'll be fighting ourselves. And that's what's going to happen. That's what's going on now. That's why this cognitive dissonance is going on, that people can't even come to terms with what's going on, because we've been betrayed. And with betrayal comes some clarity, but people will not get that clarity because they can't get past the betrayal. Because you imagine, people could see Dr. Douglas as an icon, all our past prime ministers as icons, guys who could have left their legacy, sell out, and sell out in the cheapest of ways. And not only sell out in the cheapest of ways, still dress up in all the pomp and pride and demanded applause. Demanding legacy marks and demanding statues and telling us and trying to convince us that they've been doing a good job all this time. So it's obvious that these men will burn down this nation just to be king, emperor, CEO, permanent secretary of the ashes. That's what these people are prepared to do. And I have to have empathy and understanding. That's what my therapist told me. I have to have empathy and understanding. And at the end of it all, it ain't just about truth. It's about reconciliation, recompense, and restoration. So imagine me being a victim. Imagine me with the realization that I've been victimized and I know who my victimizers are. I can't get to rally the troops because they can't understand that they ain't conscious enough. And I have to think about reconciliation, recompense, and restoration. And all these guys are doing is entrenching and deciding we ain't going down without a fight. Yeah, it's tough.
Thank you
See
for that.
that documentary, that up to now I can't describe the feeling.
We're gonna come to that. Go ahead, Brother Bento.
Yeah, listening, I can feel his passion. And I think when he spoke about compensation, there's also a part when it deals with reparation.
Point, good.
There's a segment of it where when our own people who speak a language passed on by our forefathers and trying to educate us in a way forward, where along the way, those golden footprints which were left in the sands for us to follow, the deviation by dissecting our own lineage and ability to focus on who we are and where we've been and where we're going has become something that has been described as just me, self. And as you move forward, as we looked at the CBI program, for instance, like a prime catalyst of growth, and you speak about impoverish, you should not have one poor person in St. Kitts. Not one. The CBI program, as how it was designed.
St. Kitts and Nevis.
And Davis, I'm sorry. To Davis, I'm sorry, no disrespect. Has this been prescribed based on your elected officials' agenda, based on every single manifesto they create? One of the things on the CBI program, it's not fulfilling what it was intended to do. The CBI program, if it was managed properly by all of the offsprings based on these investors, the type of household that could have been built for those that don't have, that will have, the sort of growth and education that we would have been provided, or you would be able to provide to your people based on what's already there in that plan that was created. And going forward, what we found based on the mendacious presentations where they lied about so many things as far as what would have been the catalyst to move forward, this was all just more of appeasing to you to be quiet. And I listened to my colleague here, he spoke of the micro and the macro. And when it comes to the socioeconomics of your country, where the macro doesn't understand the micro, or they've forgotten that there is a micro, where you sit in a position of macro, you have forgotten what your very decent ability should have been to each person you represent in your constituency and your country. So going forward, when you look at the dynamics of how we have eradicated, raped, and pillaged the very soul of those unborn babies that are conditions today, what do you say tomorrow and every day going forward for those who are now getting ready to leave our education system? Stay and come back home. How do you attract them to be part of a bold community, to grow with a semblance of understanding that they too are very much important to the fabric of your growth and existence? We've forgotten our way, we've lost our way, and those who know better yield because they're afraid of being stymied, ridiculed, or even applied pressure of retaliation because of what they may have said and what have done. I want to thank my colleagues, the FBI, who was in St. Kitts. I want to thank them very much. And one of the things that I would say to many things that's taking place, remember, I didn't throw the first punch. DJ Marisha? And I've explained time and time again, based on what we have before us, what the world round has seen about us, and what the world round is saying about us. As those individuals where the administration knew that there were individuals in Guantanamo Bay in Cuba who were Kittians, they knew. Why didn't come to the fabric of explaining to the community why they didn't speak about them? Why didn't explain what the course of why they there are? And ask of what heritage or origin they came from and acquired the citizen by investment citizenship under the program in St. Kitts. Why they didn't do that? You see, to the end, as we move forward, I am relentless, as you know, that there will become a time where, like I said, time and time, Mr. Marisha, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis still had not provided an arrest warrant for me. It is said that I said so many things and not an arrest warrant where the Prime Minister and his AG sat in a meeting where we were and said that I said what I didn't say. And I've appeased to them to take their steps, and I'm taking mine. So as we move forward, and we're looking at the human trafficking, and I heard Dwyer with the pedophilia organization, and who some of these people, without names, who some of these people are, and you guys know who some of them are as well. I have a pet peeve when it comes to people like that. When you as a father bring a young child, well not bring, but you nurture through the mother, a child in this world, and you expect to do your best, your very best, to make sure that they get the best, that they achieve the best. And then you have individuals along the way with a trust factor that you may have, that they come in between that umbilical cord of that child and you and the mother, and you decide that you're going to take them to another hiatus and destroy the fabric of the mind that you build in that child by raping, abusing, and doing what you want to do with them, however you feel like doing it to them. It tells a story. And when you have moralities within our churches as well, where we turn the blind eye to these facts and fabrics of individual who sits in the podiums as well, and they say amen and hallelujah just the same, but we know who they are, and we're afraid to speak up and speak out based on what they have done and what they have damage they have done to these young souls. And the mother and fathers who knows exactly what you have done for your babies when you first held that child in your arm at first birth, and you said that you are going to make sure that you protect them as much and as best as you can. And God knows that the oath that you've made and the tears that you've shed and the ability to really reason within yourself to say, this is a life from me, given the opportunity by God to be able to create as well and procreate a child in this world and bring them to being who they are. And the common sense is snuffed away from them. The innocence is snuffed away from them by individuals who feel they're entitled because they sit in executive positions or otherwise in this government or governments that says my government, because of how I governance, is that I am in charge and no one can touch me. These are some of the fabrics of where we're going to really clean some of the issues and mess up. And that's when you look at some of the different programs where we were speaking about the Carry Pass for the Caribbean. That still is another issue that needs to be looked at. And you look at some of the other programs they spoke about. And as I listened to the doctor here, I don't know if I'm older than him, but I listened to that passion and listened to what was said to him based on what was said to the individual he sat and spoke to. Hold the rein, because your voice is resounding and it makes a difference. When you're stifled, stagnated, or snuffed, or gagged, the issues that persist becomes muted by individuals who know that you will be muted. When your passion changes a direction, then your course of direction as far as where you've been and where you're going is lost. And that is where now from those who have left the footprints in the sand of gold for us years past, from now are now rolling over in their graves to see for what we've become. How do we change that? The manifesto going forward is an ideal one that needs to be explained properly. And if we understand where we are today and how we can get there, by those who are behind us now, because we're ahead, to understand your history, from whence you came, and for all those who fought for this very freedom that all of us are enjoying, and living under an umbrella that says that we have an identity, but your identity is being robbed and raped. Your identity is being removed by history based on who you are, where your education system is changing the campus, where you don't educate you about you. How do we go forward? And I'm very happy that the gentleman is on with us this evening. I wanted to hear his perspective as he has diluted all that I needed in the sugar water so I can drink it properly, drink my beverage and understand what has been part of the formula diluted in consumption. So I want to thank you for being on with us this evening.
Thank you, Brother Benter. Thank you, Dr. Alexander. Brother Benter, as I listen to Dwyer's commentary and knowing what I know, it is very hard to accept what we have come to. And as I reflect, it gives me a sense of pain. Last week, I made a statement, I've been making this statement for some time now, that there are enablers amongst us that enable these corrupt, bad actors that we call politicians. A few days ago, I went into Sam Kanda. I was walking up Church Street and he was coming down from government headquarters. It might have been Friday or Monday. It could have been Monday. And Sam is someone that I respect and love. He's a hard worker. I know he means well. But for whatever reason, Sam is like French Reed. He finds himself in all the bad areas. I followed Sam from the Denzel Douglas administration. Sam was the one to convince me to support a team unity, a PLP team unity, because he was trying to call out the wrong that Denzel Douglas was doing. So naturally, the respect I have for Sam, I said, Douglas already put in 20 years, give somebody else a try. Let's see where we're going. And it didn't take me long, a matter of weeks. It was October of 2015, I realized that it was a bad decision for me. It didn't take long. It was at a town hall meeting in New York that I provided the PA system for, and some questions that was asked of the then Prime Minister. And I asked some questions and based on the answers I received. And I spoke to Sam about it. You know, was disappointed because I realized that I made a mistake in supporting that coalition. Now, Sam stayed with the coalition for 5 years as ambassador to the United Nations, based in New York. There are many things I spoke to Sam about that was wrong. Sam never responded one time to me about what I'm saying to him. He listens to me, but he never responded. Back in 2020, when COVID and all that stuff going on, Sam got stuck in St. Kitts, and I guess the fallout between him and Timothy got to that point where he wasn't going to return back to New York anyway to be the ambassador. So he started speaking out. Sam and Dwyer was, I don't even know what word to use for them, but they were vilified by the labor colleagues, the labor supporters, the labor cartel. They didn't want to hear nothing about Sam and Dwyer. Nobody wanted to see them. This podcast is where I invited Sam and Dwyer. And over the weeks of conversation, slowly, they got back into the groove of this society and trying to get rid of the Team Unity administration that was accepted back in the labor cabal. The meetings in 2020, trying to get rid of the Team Unity administration, most of those meetings were held at Sam House here. I'm the one that started the group. I'm the one that started the WhatsApp group. And I listened to Sam and my cousin Dr. Martin and them on Freedom FM on a Friday afternoon in the big jail. And they tried to portray to the citizens that they love this country and they will do whatever for the country and whatever. These people are about themselves. Because, like I said, I saw Sam a couple days ago. And it's like he was running away from me. I don't know if you ever had the opportunity to see a wet rat in a bucket of water. That is how Sam looked. Like he's running away from me. And I'm the one that went to him and I shook his hand and said, "What's up? Where you off to?" He said, "Heading to some store around the corner." But yet, when I saw yesterday my good friend Sam at Government House receiving his appointment certificate to be chairman of this committee, it tells me that some people, they ain't got no heart beating in the chest, you know. It's a 9-volt battery in the chest. Because I realize now why Sam could not shake my hand freely like he normally do. His conscience got the better of him. All Sam had to tell me is, you know, "Mr. Marisha, this is the case. I was asked to do this, whatever, and it's done." He's a grown man. If I was in Sam's position, I would not wait for Sam to hear via social media or a news release that I'm appointed to something, right? And there's a clip here. I'm not going to bore the people this evening with this clip. But just a couple of weeks ago, on Freedom FM, Sam Conda, Dr. Martin, and Jamie had a conversation where they was talking about the Labour Party is in such a state right now. They have 6 seats in government, and they're going to struggle to win even 2. Sam made that statement. Dr. Martin made a statement. Jamie agreed. So if he knows that the government is in the position that it is, not doing right by the people, why you get yourself caught up in that mess, son? Why? What is it? Try to make me understand. I walked into the Prime Minister's office and told him, "Listen, back in March, I will not be supporting your nonsense. I'm not going to spin. I'm not going to be twisting. This podcast I am running is about bringing facts to the people, being honest to the people. And since there seems to be some issues with my podcast and what I do, feel free to invite me out like you invite me in." He said, "It was nothing like that." I said, "I don't mind being the sacrifice lamb, or the sacrificial lamb, because I am not going to entertain this stuff." Brother Benter, tonight, this evening, I do not even know how to feel, because it was one thing some months ago when I watched a portion of the documentary that was produced by the MSR team about the CBI. It was another thing a couple days ago when I sat with a couple of our Kittitian and division in the conference room of Mr. Damien Kelsick and listened to Lescan confessing the corrupt deals between our politician, our CBI, and the underselling of these passports. That the Prime Minister claimed was not taking place, that they knew before they went into office was taking place, and put the country in the mess we're in today. And we have citizens, because they might be getting a little couple of dollars here or there, a music festival ticket, a flight to Jamaica, Cuba, wherever. They're willing to accept that instead of trying to save our country. Our country is in a mess. I'm not going to come on this podcast and tell the citizens who else saw the documentary with me or the confession of Lescan with me. It's up to those individuals to unmask themselves. What I am saying to you, Mr. Benton, Mr. Alexander, it is very troubling. And I can say to you, just as viewing that video made me sick to my stomach, every other individual that viewed that video tell me the same thing. They could not sleep properly that night. It makes them sick. I do not know if it will affect every Kittitian and division the same way. But I will say to Mr. Martinez, if nothing else, release that confession of Lescan to the general public. Let our people understand, get an understanding of where we are and who the perpetrators are. Because my partner, over the past couple of weeks, I have said it, there are several of our citizens that has been charged, that have been arrested, that have been tried for stealing, for accepting funds that they're not entitled to in a false way. But we got the people sitting in cabinet, parliament, have done worse, have taken most of our CBI money, have it in our offshore accounts. We have people, it's documented in the last, let's say 7 weeks. I didn't have to reach out to people. People reach out to me. People who are in the know, people who participated in the CBI, who confirmed to me, Mr. Marisha, what's taking place now is nothing new. That's been going on for years. It's just that it was going on a certain way. And the problem is that Timothy Harris, because he was greedy, that prison project is what created the problem we have today. Why everybody now is in hot water. That individual also said to me that they've been following this podcast since 2020. And they respect my forthrightness to the people. And they look forward to me every week. They just had one issue with me. And I said, what is the issue? Said, Mr. Marisha, I didn't agree with you working for the government and read out the text between you and the Prime Minister. I said, apparently something you're missing. So let me explain to you. I am an ethical person. As long as I was working for the government or working under the Prime Minister, whatever messages, WhatsApp or otherwise, the general public would not get that information. I did not come to the general public to read WhatsApp messages. The Prime Minister is the one that came to the public reading a WhatsApp message that someone sent to him. He didn't call my name. He said, some mercenary trying to extort. As a result of that, I unmasked because I wasn't going to give the Prime Minister that luxury to gaslight the citizens. I have seen him done it before. He would not get a second chance at it. So I came out and identified myself. And I read every other message him and I had. Because I understand the criminal activities. I understand the message indirectly. Sorry, you get caught up in this. You will be okay. No, I will not be okay. And you're not sorry I get caught up in it. You're sorry I caught you. You're sorry that I did the investigation. And thanks to you, Mr. Benter. Without your investigation, I would not know what I know today. We would not be where we are today. So I have to thank you. And I have to thank Mr. Martinez. And I have to say to the country, St. Kitts and Nevis, we're going all the way to the end with this. It's too much money out there. We need to claw it back. There's too much poverty in St. Kitts and Nevis while these bank accounts out there. These people cannot outlive their bank accounts. What they have, they cannot outlive it while we got hungry citizens in this country. Do I mention it in this podcast? How many days has my representative spent in constituency 6? You might find some people in constituency 6 say, oh, don't study Marisha because he don't buy me a drink. I cannot buy everybody a drink, number one. And the monies they have for you in their bank account. I would not have to buy you a drink. You might buy me a case. Or you might be so big with yourself, your pocket full of money, you might pass me straight. So Mr. Marisha is not the problem. Mr. Bente is not the problem. Dr. Alexander is not the problem. Martin is, by extension, MSI is not the problem. These are individuals that choose to speak out, choose to make sure that the citizens get what is due. So, Brother Bente, this morning, I was invited to a press conference at Glen Barrows. my first press conference in the Federation.
Dr. Pastor, could I just mention something about what you said about Sam?
No problem.
If I may, yeah. I'm not gonna get bashed for this because I'm gonna be told defending Sam, but it's not that. It's like I said, I've now learned to approach this in a more therapeutic way, and like I said, we're going to need Sam. And what I've seen, because I can remember when I was on the program, Dr. Martin wasn't there. I think he was off island, so it was Sam, Minister Sam Kondo, myself, and Jamie.
Correct. And the other one was Sam, Jamie, and Dr. Martin, my cousin. So
correct.
Yeah.
So the intention was for all of us to be there, but because I think I was just replacing Juni that day because he wasn't in. So Dr. Martin was supposed to, but then he was off island. So and that day, Sam supported. He brought up things that I've never heard him say publicly before. He brought up history of not just the party, kept me online. So like I've seen with so many other persons, you just need the support of that group. It's like I said before, about you being upful. Upfulness is not an individual thing. It starts as an individual action, an individual mentality. But when people see that, it emboldens other people. So that I was totally shocked with Sam and loved him a little bit more. When I saw him on whatever that committee is, because again, we have enough institutions and enough titles to protect and serve us. We don't need more. So if you see more, the construction of more, it's a fast. It's a fast, at least for me. I don't know if it's a red flag for other person, but it's a fast for me. So when I look at the persons involved, again, I'm telling you about my personal struggle with the civil service right at this point. And one of the persons is right there. So when I see Sam do that, I want to love him less. But that's the thing about love. When I love somebody, I just can't take away the love. It doesn't work like that. So I really think Sam has a place, and I would love to have him back again. But again, I was so disappointed by what I saw today. So disappointed.
Well, we are on the same page with that. So let me clarify what I was saying. Sam is someone that I love. Sam is someone that I know, mean well, and is good for this country. I do not know why he continues to get caught in these webs, because this position is to silent Sam. This position that these folks are getting is to silent them. The DJ do not want any position because I won't be silent. And it's unfortunate that we still have people like Sam, this day and age, does not understand that I'm an electrician by trade. Okay? I am well aware that if I touch a hot wire or a live wire to a ground, it's going to cause problems. I am well aware if I touch a live wire to a neutral, it's going to cause problems. I am well aware that if I hold a hot wire and put my hand in water, it's going to cause me problem. If I don't have proper protective equipment, I know what it's going to cause. So Sam cannot have his hands in one way with the government and talking what he's talking. You got to be consistent. And that is where the problem lies. The people that should be in a position to protect this country fails the country on a regular basis. Sam is one of them. He mean well. He does well. He talk a good talk, but it's the actions you got to pay attention to. Not bashing Sam. Just, your mic is closed.
Oh.
Just.
And you use the word there, enablers. And the thing about enablers, they have certain slurs. And these are slurs now. It's only now that I wouldn't even say in the hot seat. More in the hot seat that I realize it. There's what you call enablers slurs. They're like bad words to good people. The word crazy and lazy, they're two descriptors that enablers like to use. Like, for example, I ain't even gonna go there, but I've been described as lazy and crazy. Like I tell you, I just retired from the civil service and I have months of vacation time put up. That's not the result of somebody who's not working or who is avoiding work. That doesn't happen because I'm a doctor and I give sick leaves. And there are persons who come to me and let me know, yeah, man, take a sick leave for the week, for the year. And yeah, because they feel like it's owed to them. So I wouldn't have all this time if I wasn't somebody sacrificing myself and sacrificing my body and my mind. And crazy, never been committed. Survive what people would call the ghetto of St. Kitts. I don't agree there, but and survive Cuba and survive the horrors of what's going on now. Survive the horrors of COVID and never get committed, never had an issue. So we have to be so careful of like I also look so differently at the people that I always did, at the people who our society calls crazy. But I even look now a little deeper when person say no, even if it's a friend of mine that refers to somebody as lazy. Because like when that slur comes out now, I'm asking like, why you think so? To get their perspective. Because it speaks more of the person using these slurs than the person that they're describing.
You know, my position in life that I have always seen, I'm not a social worker. I'm not a therapist or a doctor. But people normally does two things. They judge you according to their own intellect, their own assessment of themselves. That is how they judge you. And if people see you at a certain level, they don't think they can get there. So their mission is to bring you down to their level, if not lower. So I don't worry about what people say, how people feel. What I know is that these criminals that dress up in jacket and tie and the sharpest shoes and walk into government house or their offices on a daily basis, they are bigger criminals than the ganja smokers. They are bigger criminal than the little girl or boy that working hard at a store or at a deli, at a grocery, and no matter how much hours they put in, they cannot maintain their family, they cannot maintain the light bill, the water bill, putting food on the table, sending the kids to school. So they see the opportunity to steal a little thing on the side, and they get caught. I'm not saying it's right, but it's because of the poverty-stricken situation they are placed in. Because these politicians that we elect, that's supposed to take care of its people. Look at where we are. During the campaign of 22, there were many people on this program, whether they call Papa, Step, whatever it was. There was a great amount of people getting $500 a month. There were people who, not even in the country, was getting money put into their accounts wherever they were. I understand there was people in prison in Anguilla or the Virgin Islands. They had an account. I listened to the AG. So if I am lying, I'm lying because of the AG said that some people had their dog name and bank accounts. The campaign was the then administration, the Unity, Dr. Harris, said they want to raise the Papa, the Step, whatever it was, to $1,000. The Labour candidates or the Labour Party campaign, they're going to raise it to $1,500. So it was at 5. The campaign of 22 is going to go to 10 if you keep the then administration. But the Labour campaign, if you put us in there, we're going to give you $1,500 a month. The people believe Labour. They believe Dr. Drew. I am the person responsible for peddling that. Because I campaigned for Dr. Drew and by extension the Labour Party. And they got in there. The first thing they did was what? Cut the pop, cut the step. People had to register. Many people lost. When people complain, they come back and they give you some bullshit that they're going to give you $250 a month for 6 months, from January to June. And I said that was bullshit because I saw the monies from the CBI. I saw the numbers. You got money for the people, give them their money, let them spend it how they feel. You're going to give them $250, some JAD app, whatever, and you're going to tell them where they must spend the money. We come back and the VAT. They said they're going to reduce the VAT from 17% to 13%. Again, the VAT is back to 17%. Something that have always puzzled me. I was told under the Denzel Douglas administration, I think Timothy Harris was a part of the Denzel administration at the time. The IMF asked them to bring in this VAT business because of the monies that was owed to the IMF. Well, my good people, with the millions that come through the CBI, when Dr. Harris took over, he said he paid off the loan that Douglas left to the IMF. So if the IMF put pressure on you to put a VAT on the people because you owe them, and you now pay them back, why not kill the VAT? Instead, every year you bullshit people, you give it 2 days here, 2 days there at Christmas time. The mind games, the slavery mentality, it's time for us to done with that. I like what Dwyer speaking there because I haven't spoken to Dwyer about my intentions, but I've been crying out for some independent candidates because the politicians that have been there, they ain't gonna do it. They have proven over the past 20 plus years that they're not capable of getting back this country and clawing back this money and giving the citizens what is due. It's not gonna happen under a PAM government. It's not gonna happen under a Labour government. It's not gonna happen under a CCM government. We need all hands on deck to try and claw back this money, claw back these lands that these government ministers so far has destroyed out there. And you know why the Labour government or other parties feel that they could get away with the criminal activities that they're doing over the past years? Because to every time somebody rise up and start saying independent, run as an independent, they get brainwashed in believing that this is not the time. It's not going to work. Mr. Benter, Mr. Alexander, I've come to one conclusion. This is the time for independence. This is the time for us to break the back of the corruption. This is the time for us to take this country from out of the hand of these criminals we have in government house. This is the time for independence to stand up. And what I have done, which some people might think is not possible, I'm crazy. But what I have done, gentlemen, I went across to the electoral office, did some investigation. I must say to you, guys, that the supervisor of election that they have there, he's not an easy man to deal with, but I respect him. And I let him know my intention that we would like to register a coalition. We want to run some independent candidates in the next election. So I went through the process and we registered a coalition by the name of Citizens Empowerment Coalition. Very simple. The citizens need to take this country back. So the Citizens Empowerment Coalition, our motto is embracing all as one. I do not know if the citizens are happy with cannot make it out there, cannot get food on the table, cannot pay their light bill, cannot pay their rent. If they're happy with that, or if they want to get some money back into the system where they can get their cards and go to the bank or go to wherever and pay their bills. But all of these millions that is out there sitting in some bank account overseas need to come back into this country. And every citizen should get a piece of that pie. The accounts should be open in the citizen's name. Give them a bank card where they can go. The money is deposited in that account. It is their money. This passport belongs to everybody, not just a chosen few. I can tell you something, Mr. Benter. I have names. I'm not going to call them tonight. The Prime Minister likes to say he got names, or he got texts, and he going to screenshot and save in his file. I don't have to screenshot. As a matter of fact, I got several files with these criminals. And I don't have them just sitting on a folder in my bunker. They are secured on various external drive. So they can be accessed by anyone. But what gives me hope for this country is what is taking place at the moment by the US State Department and the Justice Department. That giving me hope for the people. And when that hammer drops, and our citizens realize that what the DJ has been saying for months, this is the time. This is the time that they're going to have to run and scan all over the place. Because a lot of these folks that out there now talking big, they're just bluffing. They know the situation. They know what they have done. They know what they're into. But they're busy trying to convince our beloved citizens that there's nothing to worry about. Every one of them, if they're sleeping at night, then they got a 9-volt battery in their chest, not a heart. Because for what I know, and they know what they have done, they know they're in some hot water. So my good people, I am saying this evening, the field is open for candidates in all constituencies, both St. Kitts and Nevis. The coalition is seeking candidates in all constituencies. Independents. We are not setting up any party. I don't want to hear about no party politics. Candidates, independent candidates. Some people already raised their hand, and I want to thank them. I won't be releasing their names until the right time. But when it's time to present those names on nomination day, my good people, you guys will know who they are. These are citizens that not into it for the money. They're into it to save us because some of them have already seen for themselves. These corrupt politicians have no love for the country. They have no love for you. So, as we continue going, I'm pretty sure the fake news media, I am pretty sure the mercenaries will come at me because the party is now officially registered. The party is now officially registered, and we're just doing what we have to do to unite the various communities. So, gentlemen, that is my big announcement for this evening, that a group of individuals, including myself, had came together and decided we cannot just speak. We have to provide the alternative. So the party that they say they have, they say for the good that they can do, what is the worst that they have done. So we have decided to come up with a coalition to try and rescue the country and rescue the citizens of our beloved federation. But Alexander, Brother Benta, your input.
Sure, I want to jump in quick before Mr. Alexander, and I hope that he is a part of the coalition, but we wait. Because what I'm hearing here, I've just heard the birth of a new political party, a coalition that has been formed with names already somewhere along the way. And I hope that you're one of the names as well, DJ Marisha. Yes, you took the walk, and I see the gentleman in line as well. I do pray because I will definitely support and help. As you mentioned, for those who are listening, sometimes you got to stand against the grain because sometimes it's just that stand that makes a difference. If everybody keeps working along with the grain and not going across the grain, it's going to stay the same direction, the same compass that's going to be used in the same direction, and the community is going to suffer. And I'm glad that you mentioned a few things so the people who are listening. St. Kitts is now at the top of the federal umbrella. See, St. Kitts was one of the movement of the CBI program.
St. Kitts Nevis.
St. Kitts Nevis. I apologize against Nevis. No disrespect. But the coalition for that was based out of St. Kitts and Nevis. with the masses. That I really want to applaud those individuals going back and having a vision, and even those leaders, but they fell off and went somewhere else for some other reason, and other reasons are theirs. But the reasons that will impact your country. A new coalition and a party, when you move forward to get things done, as you educate the people that what should be in place, what should be in a permanent fund for the CBI program, like Alaska, for instance. In those permanent funds, when you guys assume role in governance, when you guys get in government, and then you start to decipher how you're going to manage the portfolio in governance, that a permanent fund enables you to continue to invest in a market and pay out to the citizens via dividends from the collection from the market. The billions that's in these accounts and how you structure it going forward, enabling individuals to have and own a piece of the pie, own a piece of the rock. When you look at what's going on as far as how the country is being divided up, it's such a shame. I can remember back in the early 2000s going forward, the Marriott Hotel that sits there with St. Kitts. The investors came to the US Virgin Islands and wanted to build a Marriott Hotel. Well, it wasn't Marriott, it didn't have a name. The flag is Marriott. To build that hotel in the US Virgin Islands, in particular in St. Croix. And knowing a lot of these guys, by knowing them as these investors came to the US Virgin Islands with the plan to do it, it was a group out of plastic, out of Canada, and it was Canada-based, and they had a company that they brought developers together, investors together to come in, and they formulate this plan. They came to the US Virgin Islands. I sit here now and I'm remembering how things were when it was a plastic company based out of Canada, and they said, hey, listen, we have a group and this is what we want to do. They came in with earnest plans to develop. And when the government of the US Virgin Islands decided through our elected officials, but if I'm going to do this, I need X amount under the table. I mean, it must be paid under the table. In speaking with these individuals, I said to them, because they wanted to stay in the Caribbean, they wanted a US flag, but they wanted to stay in the Caribbean. St. Kitts, who was still in the sugarcane industry, and the discussions was being had to change the diaspora into something else. I said, well, why don't you look at St. Kitts? It's a virgin territory. St. Kitts and Nevis was not a name that they were very familiar with like that. And a gentleman by the name of Turner Fleischer, who became the project manager, project developer with his group, that came in. And he started looking at it. A trip was made there. And Mr. Wendell Lawrence, of course, you know who the prime minister was then, and so forth, and the discussion started. And the shift from the US Virgin Islands for that Marriott Hotel was shifted by a discussion in identifying a virgin region within the Caribbean that needed this infrastructure diversification. And they did. Now, here comes Fleischer later and asking certain questions based on some of the experience they had. It was been good experience, Jack Tar and all that was going on. But to see how the community worked and how it was received and what it became and what it is today. There are other individuals who are still looking at a virgin region to do much more infusion in growth and economic for territory, for a place, not only for the country, but for the best business. However, it's what you set on the scale and what you're going to offer and how you're going to manage it. You don't give away the whole hog because you feel like, hey, I'm going to look for me and forget about your country. There's a formula. And so creating the escrow for the permanent funds, and now that this party is listed, and I'm going to read it off, the Citizen by Investment Correlation, and embracing all as one. That goes a long way. Now, the aperture to this now is the constituencies of which we're looking at is going to be another dilemma based on where you're going to go, because now you've registered. You've unfolded, you unveiled, the curtain is wide open now. Everybody can see who's on stage pretty much. The only person who's on stage right now is you, Marisha, so far. I hope the coalition members, and I pray that when this moves, the honesty in the program, we're even to the fact that you do what's right, that the US government will come in and help as far as help you develop your country, right? Now, there's a talk out there right now, and I'm gonna say to these guys that's planning and having these discussions, the CARICOM nations, including the OECS, you see, things need to be said. It is discussed that there's over 40 million people within the diaspora of CARICOM, 40 million plus. The discussion now that individuals are encouraging them to have is that all we need is 10 million people to start our own army. Y'all pay attention to what's going on here. And that army, in coalition, whomever you decide you're going to work with, is now a challenge, or will be a challenge. And that's where the whole thing about the carry pass came up, and all these other discussions. These are things that are happening that you guys even know what's happening. To start to formulate a way to build your own defense force, or military, not a defense force, but military, armed and artilleries. I will say this today. The United States of America is not going to allow for anybody to come with any nuclear armament anywhere within this region that close to the United States. Be careful in your discussions. The Treaty of 1988, signed in Bastille, and one that was signed in Barbados later on, of the treaty that you have, and realizing the microgrid that you're under right now, that's coming in tenfolds. And you know, if Felipe Martinez didn't take the step that he did and bring in awareness to the corruption, if Felipe Martinez didn't do what he did based on what's happening, the nation would not know that they were heading down a path, that you find yourself engaged in warfare where you had no knowledge of how you got there. You know, we got there. And why they sit and continue to do this, the people need to understand that not only that a timeline has been given, a timeline that the government within the OECS region was saying does not exist. Remember, this does not exist. There's no issue with the CBI program. There's no this and there's no that. And just somebody was saying before, they try to make you look incompetent and ridiculous and stupid. The people who live in the United States of America that has a United States citizenship, I say, be aware. Okay, it doesn't mean that because you commit a crime now, that's the only time you're impacted. They're looking at going back years. And whether you commit a felony, a rape, a murder, whatever have you, that they're moving to remove you from the country and send you back to where you came from. This is how serious this is. When you have individuals who are arrested, and there are numerous individuals, and the majority of the arrests under the CBI program is other syndicates. The majority of the money launderers, the cyber hackers, the individuals who are chemists that creates nuclear auspices, a chemical that get transposed to the community and wipe out a whole community. A lot of these people came through St. Kitts, and they know who they are. The bomb techs came through St. Kitts. That's how liberal I can speak right now. So the MSR group that brought us forward, if this wasn't done a certain way, where we are today, and Mr. Marisha, you're the one to push me into this direction to check to see what's going on. That is the umbrella that you have. When the Prime Minister can speak boldly and stand up as if he has gumption and guts to speak when he's a coward, and spoken to the people that he has spoken to, what he has said over the years now has transitioned into something completely different. The misrepresentation, and I speak to your people of your community in your country, just like myself in the U.S. Virgin Islands, what I've done as far as what's happening, we're through the same federal agencies, we're eradicating the corruption at every level. When you have a governor in the U.S. Virgin Islands can say he feels sorry for the poor people. The governor of the Virgin Islands made a statement that he's sorry for the poor people based on a lot of the cuts that are coming. But he's the governor of the territory. And all the shrinkage and corruption that's been under his umbrella that he's closed a blind eye on and worked with and is a part of, that's supposed to go idly by. No. Steps were taken to bring the same measure that I'm doing with St. Kitts and Nevis to the U.S. Virgin Islands. And through that, we started indicting people. Indicting means charging them through a grand jury and then to the court and take them where they're supposed to go. That's the vision that your country needs to have. To stand on your legs and understand that the individuals who are saying that care and they love you and they care for you only see self and their family. When you hear bomb techs, chemists for chemical warfare, individuals talking about how creating an army to defend. What are you talking about war with the United States? Why even going on that road to create a formula for such a discussion? And here, me and Matt Lee in a press conference is talking about, well, we need to start doing ABC. We got to be careful in our discourse. And we're going to start to place what into this into space, satellites, to do what? I'm not saying growth isn't good, you know, but who's pushing the growth into what direction and for what cause and what purpose? The United States of America is not going to sit and understand that it's known that there are also devices in some of these islands. There's segments of these communities, these OECS, that people who have land in certain areas can't go to unless they're escorted by another nation to go to their property to visit. It's going on in the Caribbean. There are people that own land in a certain areas, in certain sectors, that they have to call a certain embassy in order to be able to go into their property that they paid for, passed down by the families. The heritage of theirs is not being eradicated because what's going on in there they think is not known. I'm speaking liberal today because you are my family. And my family, all of us in a Caribbean nation, we should have that bond to understand that we are in fact one. No, bond here, bond there, doesn't matter. We are Caribbean people. And we have forgotten those direction from our forefathers, how we were once one for using the same bread basket of the Caribbean. How do we allow for individuals who, even though there are some Americans who has also been arrested in even trying to work along with coalition outside of the United States, it is too detrimental for us to even begin to think about we're going to allow for individuals to come in and control your region. You've done so well for your forefathers to get where you at, our forefathers to get where we at. And now here comes this discussion. It's being had to Cuba, to China. And while we have individuals who, because of, I'm not beating the country, because there are people who live there that don't deserve what they're going through. But when you start to work with, when you start working with entities with a plan and how you could backdoor the United States and think it's a secret, it's not. So to MSR Group, I want to thank them. DJ Marisha, you pushed me back in the saddle of doing what I'm doing. And in doing what I'm doing now, it creates much more for the revelation. Once the United States see that there are individuals, and I'm speaking as an American, there are individuals or countries that's worthy of sitting and working with to impart, because for all decades past, decades present, one of the things people say, well, we don't got any funding for the United States. You don't want to open your books to the United States. So how the United States will give you money to do what you want to do with it, and you don't want to give an account for it. It's an easy fix. Open your books, the programs that they have funded in many different countries. We have USAID and so many other things that exist. Open your books and work with it so that the funds that they move for projects through the agreement that we made, if you mess with federal funds, you're indicted just the same. So the funds could get to where it's supposed to get to. So I am very pleased to hear today that there's a coalition by the name of Citizen by Investment Coalition.
Empowerment.
Empowerment. Okay, Citizen by Empowerment.
No, Citizens Empowerment Coalition.
Oh, it's empowerment and investment. Empowerment. I will make sure when I pass it on to the guys of the Empowerment Coalition. And I want you to know that your show is being monitored, right? And the doc, so you know that when you speak, there are other individuals that are listening on to what you say. Because of course, what many is taken lightly, there is a case that's being made and will be before U.S. Congress. Because you still, Mr. Felipe Martinez again, defending where he's being destroyed, that he thinks that it is a congressional hearing, that they heard, but it's not really the people. So he's still putting his divide in between to protect the people while the government is trying to destroy an individual who's looking out for the country. Because what you saw in the documentaries, that is nothing yet. What you looked at and you saw and you heard is way beyond your imagination of the other things that exist. It's way beyond. It is way beyond for the individual who sit in government and run governance, and they sit and they say who are involved in this. But what they don't know is that they are puppets being managed and handled by puppeteers. They're the puppets. and somebody's mangling, handing the direction where they're going and don't even understand danger. Has St. Kitts and Nevis or any in the other Caribbean region except Grenada in 1983 understand the plight of the armed force of the United States? Where you allow people to build bombs in your country? Where you allow people to create the chemical warfare industry and formulas in your country? And playing that you're blind and you don't know. Just because of what? Benjamin Franklin that you could hide in Dubai and a lot of these other countries.
You know, funny thing, gentlemen, as you speak, Mr. Benter, I keep saying that we have some citizens here in St. Kitts Nevis. They walk around with their eyes wide open, shut. And why I say this, if they pay attention to the games that the Prime Minister and his cabals are playing, it's very clear. Now, the Prime Minister came on Monday evening. A couple of days, well, there was an advertisement. It's going to be a national address. It better if he had just put on a dress and come on and give us a good laugh, because that's what I got. Now, he is claiming that he's showing videos of the various projects that is taking place. Well, there are several projects that he did not show. And the number one project that he should have shown the people is the prison project in Estridge. If anyone is paying attention, he's been in there for 34 months. He have yet to invite the public to Estridge to see the status of this prison project that is ongoing. He has yet to put cameras up there to show the people what is taking place. So if the Prime Minister is really serious about coming to the people and being honest, I can forgive him, you know. We are human beings. We do make mistakes. Sometimes we make the wrong choices. But he needs to cut out the bullshit and come to the people. Do not allow the people that taking him down this road to destroy the country. This is not why I campaign on behalf of him. This is not why I campaign to put a Labour Party in government, to destroy the country. What I campaign for today is worse than what was there. And I want people to understand this. People must understand where we are. The healthcare system is in a mess. I was in there. I see for myself. I can come here every night and give a program, and the overall status of the healthcare system is in a mess. The education system is in a mess. All of these optics that they're coming with and trying to use AI and cameras to make things look like things are happening. Not like it. Compared to what's going on some weeks ago, our airport got a little rain. The place was in a mess. That have not been fixed. The electrical system is in a mess. We're still struggling with water ration. You know, and we can go on and on and on. And the question being asked of me on a daily basis, Jeffroy, why is the Prime Minister doing this to the country? And I'm telling everybody that calls me, I cannot think for the Prime Minister. Something as simple as advising the Prime Minister to go across to Nevis, 5 minutes from Reggae Beach, 25 minutes from Bastia to Charlestown, to meet with the citizens. At your inauguration, you said you are the Prime Minister for all. I said, okay, that sounds good. Now prove it. Let's take a trip across to Nevis and have a town hall. Let's go into the E.T. Willett Park or wherever you want to do it, the Malcolm Gishard Park. Let's go and meet the people of Nevis. For months, he told me his team is working on it. But you're going to tell me his team is that good that they can put a trip together to go to Nigeria, but they're not good enough to put a team together to go across the Nevis for 5 minutes. Gentlemen, back to you. I am at a loss, and I don't want to cuss nobody out tonight.
Yeah, I think it's my turn to get a bite in, no?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I interrupted you, Mr. Marish, Dr. Marisha, when you were about to talk about the streaming this morning. Did you you went all in on that topic, the
No,
streaming.
I did not go all in on it. I was trying to say that this morning I was invited to Glen Barrow to be a part of that conversation. It was somewhat disappointing to me to hear that not just Mr. Glen Barrow, but there are several businesses on St. Kitts and Nevis, small businesses that have reached out to this government since they've been elected for relief, because since COVID, a lot of stimuluses went out to various people, not to the right people. And a lot of these small businesses are struggling. I have spoken to the Prime Minister about some of them, one-on-one when we met some months back. And he always promised me he's going to look into it. He's going to take care of whatever to date. So when Mr. Glen Barrow spoke to me some weeks back about the fact that he was trying to get some funds from the National Bank to expand his business and try to get things back on track. And he was turned down without any justification. And then there's another project, a water park that he wants to put over there. I think it's in the Trinity area. Again, he tried to meet with the Prime Minister to date. I mean, I used to get called from the Prime Minister 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the mornings to say hello, how I'm doing. He wanted to chat. So how all of a sudden a Prime Minister, a candidate that you never used to call, they call you, they want your support, and they get into office, and in 34 short months, you cannot get a meeting with them to discuss matters not even for yourself, but for the communities that you represent. The thing that really bothered me is when I heard of the Christophe Harbour and a couple other outside investors that came in here empty-handed, was given lands, was given monies from the SIDF, was given monies from our banks. Some of the monies was not even used here. It was sent overseas to take care of debt overseas. And then our local citizens here who trying to make ends meet, you're turning them down for some simple money. 100,000, 5,000, 80,000. Well, and you know, the part when I listen to the Prime Minister spoke, I have not had the opportunity to speak to him since. But I would have really liked to ask the Prime Minister. MSR, according to the Prime Minister, did not live up to their contract of 2023. They signed a contract with MSR to do whatever at the OTI in 2023, November of 2023. And according to the Prime Minister, they was delisted from selling CBIs because they did not fulfill the obligation as per contract. Well, let's mirror that with Christophe Harbour, who had 20 years to fulfill their obligations that they did not fulfill. But the Prime Minister, I guess, at first he said hi there, Claxton. Then he came back, he said he cannot call the names and whatever. So I do not know what is wrong or what is right. But my concern is, these people have 20 years to fulfill their obligations that they did not do. According to the former Prime Minister, he tried to get some 400 acres of land back as settlement. I'm hearing a different message from Prime Minister Joe. And the thing that bothered me about what Prime Minister Joe is saying, if you listen to him as it's square table, he's referring to the Christophe Harbour from 2017. But the reality is Christophe Harbour, from my understanding, was from 2005. So why he cannot call the former Prime Minister name, Dr. Douglas? If there are missing information that he do not know about, Douglas is right there. Bring Douglas to sit next to you to explain to the country what went on between 2005 and 2017. Because I cannot accept the Prime Minister telling me that whatever agreement that Christophe Harbour had with the then Douglas administration is still intact. 20 years later, you did not fulfill your obligation, but your agreement is still intact, is not touched. But you're going to tell me that a businessman that might owe you a little interest on a loan, you cannot forfeit the interest and accommodate the local? Under the former administration, I heard that whether later TDC or whoever had owed some thousands, if not million, to the government, and it was wiped off. So why is it our government is always ready to wipe off debt for foreign investors, but the locals does not get that luxury? And why MSR get derailed after 1 year, but Christophe Harbour, when you had the opportunity to claw back these lands and claw back the monies that is owed, I understand millions in electricity and taxes and National Bank. We need the facts. The country need the facts, and I believe this information will only come by a change of government. We will not get the facts under this Labour administration. That is my view.
Okay. I was glad that I made sure that you completed that. The Citizen Empowerment Coalition. I think you've heard me say this many times. We're now in a totally different age. The thing is that definitely 3 of us in this room and a few other persons are conscious of the fact that we're in a totally different era. And when I say totally different era, I'm not even talking about us as the new ancestors, because that's what we already are being. We have people who within the past 1 year, 2 years, 3 years who've turned 18, and they're much more informed. And when I say informed, they didn't rely on their elders to give them that information. And the thing about this age is everything is on the internet. So when somebody comes and tries to mislead you, if they do mislead you, that's just laziness on your part, and you deserve to be misled because you're not following. You could go back on any one of the politicians, even all the ones they know. Just the other day, they were poor and just in the same circumstances as us, same issues as us, the same things we're fighting against, they were fighting against too. So with an easy search, you could go back and see their lamentations. I've been seeing it all the time in just my Facebook memories alone. That I've seen comments by the Prime Minister, comments by everybody, because all of these persons were intimately involved with in some way, as in they weren't just regular persons to me. They were either my patients, good friends, people I grew up with, colleagues, people I heavily respected, people who I still love. So in my Facebook memories, I'm seeing them and wondering what could have caused that change. So we're in a different era, and it definitely is the era of independence. There's no media house now that has been around for Thy Kingdom Come. Even Wally and his Times Caribbean and SKN Times, yeah, I want to talk about him a bit. Because that now has a life now about 15 to 20 years that he's just been posting. So even when you do a Google search, you won't find much in terms of the Democrat or the Labour spokesman or Wally, because he would have had multiple posts per day. Wally works at SL Horsfords. So imagine you go up with all the persons working within Horsfords, TDC, any firm around Bastille, grows with the fear of knowing, I have to watch everything I'm posting. And here you have a manager, a senior person that has enough time to post multiple times per day, and nobody can mislead me and let me and try to fool me and tell me that Wally don't own that paper. Yeah, like I have phone records of him messaging me and sending me that before it became the paper it is now. And I've seen the Prime Minister make him pull back articles. I've seen even the Prime Minister of Antigua make him pull back articles. So they know, our politicians know who is behind this media house. But again, they use them for leverage and they use them for tools, because Wally can embarrass any side, depending on, and his perspective and how he's being paid. So at times he's being used because politicians, that's what they come to. And again, that comes back within the same question of me running. I'm a politician that loves cannabis. Politicians and most politicians have to pretend, have to present forward what they're not. I'm very much about being Garfield. I'm very much about being a man and being able to call that. That can't happen in the political game. I've seen it. I tell you, I'm intimately involved with some of the politicians now. I've known them all my life. Not when I thought I knew them until power was placed in their hands. And people talk about ultimate power. And no, these men were corruptible. These men and women were corruptible from the start. I just was not being too aware or too observant because we were all in the struggle. But now the struggle is no longer there for them. You see who they really are? Because I could never be like that. I could never have that amount of zeros behind my bank account and the people around me can't be good. It couldn't happen because even with the little I have now, I'm giving away. So imagine me having that amount of zeros. So again, I'm thinking, who are these people? What kind of monsters reside in these people that they could be that bountiful and pretend? Yeah, it's so I go in the case here. MSI, Philippe Martinez. I think the most difficult thing for me to swallow watching the excerpt of that documentary was him earnestly putting his life and everything at risk to get that information. To put himself out there, to go where he went and speak with Lescan, and you could see Lescan afraid. You could see where his loyalties lie. So again, even when I want to despise Lescan, he firmly knows where his loyalties lie. With which company and who protected him after he was abandoned in St. Kitts or made the scapegoat. He was made president of a company in St. Lucia. So he knew who was there for him and he was protecting them at all costs because they protected him. So when I look at one of my leaders and the persons within my community who I saw collecting for all these years, I couldn't stand up for us. Couldn't stand up for us as in themselves included, because I don't know when they accumulate all this money and have it in escrow somewhere else and living here. How does that work? They're not cognizant of the disconnect. That if St. Kitts is suffering, if JNF can't, you can't fly out. You have to be stabilized, and the air ambulance must pick you up from an institution. It can't pick you up from your $1 million gated community. It cannot. It will not. So even if I don't look at my locals, when I research, there are several billionaires that have our passport, but don't feel connected enough to us to say, all right, I spent one day here, I even know of this place, I'm inflated with place. It's Googleable that I am a citizen of this place, and don't fix the hospital. Don't fix the port. Like what worth or value could they have in us? And again, when we have children who are going to Google now, because I grew up, this citizen, it was one of the first, since 84, so these guys this was a plan concocted even before these guys came into power. They knew what this was about because this was landmark. This was brilliant. This was brilliant, and then this was going to go against all the status quo and all the norms. But they knew they could get rid of it as a sovereign state, but they wanted it to be a sovereign state. So even when you go back to the history of the PAM party fighting against independence, and as soon as they get in 80, rushing towards it, and a man like Bradshaw on his deathbed being offered a knighthood, being offered independence, and he said, no, I want the tri-state. Because all my life, I've been trying to bring the whole Caribbean together. I achieved that for a moment. It slipped from my grips because of outside influences. And all I have now is St. Kitts, Nevis, and Anguilla. Whether they love me or not, I'm going to make this happen. And on the deathbed, he refused those things. So to see men sell out for watches and shoes, men from the humblest of beginnings, countryman, where you could probably say all the St. Kitts the majority of St. Kitts prime ministers catch bus and countryman, and see what they sell out for. See what I allowed to happen. And again, I don't want it. I can take it down to the micro too. All those persons in all those offices, cycling in and cycling out, the PSAs, the people in HR that allow themselves to be tools, because I've been to those places and I've spoke with those persons, and to hear people defend that, to defend that assault, that violence, because that's violence on your own, where you will fight to get out a master and say, I'm a slave and I want to be liberated. You get out the master and put on the master clothes, sit in a chair and get an erection from putting your foot in the necks of others who helped you to get to that position, because you couldn't have arrived there on your own. I don't want, and Mr. Bento?
Yes, sir.
Before I even go to your core question, because I got a core question for you. BRICS, I'm sure you know BRICS. So I don't want us to speak as if the United States of America will always be the center of our universe. We have to, even if they are, we have to see ourselves as our own solar system, where we are the center of us as well too. So we have to sometimes see ourselves outside the remit and the powers of these so-called superpower. Because we are a superpower. We would have, well, I say we, because you might not be kidding. We started it all. So even when people left from Britain, running from the taxes and everything that we're doing now, we're just cycling out here and came here. Here, pivot point, and the point that they established world domination. So St. Kitts for me is never ever small. Our small, like Psyche Southwest said in our independence just a few years back. That is our superpower. That is our caveat, that we are small. So today or tomorrow we could meet each other. That's why we should have seen, like as I'm saying, I could call out the persons, because we can't have these kind of millionaires and not the zeros behind the names. And other people didn't know. Little people didn't know. Little people weren't keeping silent because the pencil pushers wouldn't have this. The same as why I could call out people in the civil service now, because again, how can I be suffering when all I've been known is to sacrifice and work for this government? So why should I be suffering? So you want to tell me that the leader don't know I'm suffering? In a small place like St. Kitts? You want to say that even if the leader, even if the power comes down and say, like, we're gonna put the foot in Garfield neck, nobody in the HR office, nobody in the civil service could come and say, yo, you're a good man here. This is what I'm planning for you. Everybody kept quiet. And I'm supposed to feel good about that. When I'm being harassed for tint, like there's no, when I'm being harassed for a spliff going through football, but if anybody falls on the football field, I'm expected to be that universality and be universal doctor and jump to it, whereas lawyers are not asked to jump and help out the impoverished. Like nobody is asked to, but doctors are asked to, but they're not supposed to receive any special conditions. And again, I shouldn't be the one lobbying for that. We've had 3 prime ministers that were doctors, were medical doctors. 3 prime ministers that were medical doctors. And we still have Cuban graduates suffering in the hospital. And one is the prime minister right now, going up. The macro I wanted to get to you, Mr. Bento, because we kind of spoke of the atrocities and then we jump over to what might be done. But again, I want to get to the reparation and the repayment. Like, what are we going to do when we know these names? What are we going to do with these persons? I know in the VI, they've had casualties that large. So, again, I want us to talk about what are we going to do with these names and when everything comes public and we know these huge bank accounts and we know the atrocities of these persons, because it will going to be some big names. It's going to be persons like AGs and DPPs and these names that we are not accustomed to accost. I wouldn't even say assault, because no politician has ever been arrested for the atrocity they've committed since 1980. Now, in all my history, and I've never seen anybody. I've seen lots of talk, commission an inquiry, and millions of dollars gone, and people getting rich. And I see the same politicians recycling, and I know these guys meet at the golf club. I know they meet at the boys club after, because again, St. Kitts is a very small place. So how, not just the punishment, how do we move on beyond this integrally?
And then you have, sure, you have the right name as far as citizens by empowerment, right? It is a citizens movement. See, part of what you have, you're being dispossessed, but the dispossession is not taking place by individuals from the outside. It's being taken place by your elected officials. Then you have the discussion which came up with the doctors from Cuba. And as you mentioned, even those people in Cuba were going through, Gayasa is a Chinese company. And Gayasa is not going to allow for what the countries are saying that they're going to pay the doctors direct. You're going to see an exodus of doctors back because there's other things that those doctors have to face with their families and otherwise. Then you go to urgent fury in 1983, the United States spent $134 million in defending Grenada alone, in the invasion of which they were under, that was created by China at the top. Yes, Cuba went in, Venezuela helped with arming, but orchestrated by China. Now you talk about liberation and freedom to grow, and when we spoke about reparation and all these other things. But if the leaders are focusing on those rather than focusing on self, a lot of these avenues would have been breached already. You'd have been there already. You had the wealth to fight through the CBI program to really fight to make sure it happens. You have some places that talking. I know the UK is talking about reparation, right? Reparation comes in so many different fractions that, yes, we can bring back our ancestors. But of course, none of these countries that had to fight for freedom from slavery abolishment should be where we are today. And so when I spoke about creating what you call permanent fund for dividends under the program, you were on your way. When I spoke about diversifying the economy, creating what is necessary today, because right now this is now what you call a smart city era, and we are nowhere there as far as technology. But a lot of the technicians that are in many places come from the Caribbean diaspora, and they're in these industries. But we're not setting the stage to attract them to come back and impart their knowledge and educate, because you have the resources, you have the funds that elected officials have a bank account elsewhere to attract them to come and be paid accordingly and build your smart cities. Every graduate in your schools and universities, what is there to come back to work where? Smart cities. You bring in the industry to you. The offices are there in your country, that they're working for China or Japan, wherever in the world, but they're working right under the same kids in volume. Where's the warehouse technologies? As there's a company right now getting ready to go into Trinidad, the one was looking at St. Kitts, that they're going to be building certain things. I won't get into the devices, but it was earmarked for St. Kitts, right? We push an embassy out. The United States is now building a mega industry in Trinidad, right? As now the new prime minister that's sitting there, Ms. Prasad, and now she has joined ranks and doing certain things. Bermuda, they are not changing their affiliation. And the thing is, as independent and under a sovereign nation, what should be the strength that you have is the amenable ability to lobby. Your strength is lobbying. But in lobbying, your strength now takes you into another direction as far as infusing your own people to be at that table, to be the brainchild and the fosters of what is going to be happening in your country. There's no way that we're going to be able to build the superpower within the Caribbean like that, because then you have the different direction that you have to contend with. As you mentioned, BRICS. BRICS in the origin of the discussion was in an attempt from 1973, thereabout, when China became empowered by the United States. China was on the heel of being invaded by Russia. And with the help from the President of the United States, they said, okay, we're going to make sure we have build, because Chinese back in the days, they were field workers. They really weren't anywhere like that. They were humble individuals working their part. And then, of course, now as things begin to progress, here comes the catalyst of the world empire of technology, which is China. However, the patents and so forth, as far as what was transfused to them by investors, in order for them to patent it, they had to turn it to the Chinese government in order for them to build it. And they developed on that. Now, you have blue tourism. You have blue marketing that we could create in the Caribbean. The Chinese or the Japan vessel comes through. You have the fisheries. And how much fish do we send out to that side of the world from within the CARICOM nations? When those ships come in, those haulers come in to pick up all those fish and carry outside. What is the market that's not getting to us? What is the niche? What niche does St. Kitts and Nevis have? Don't go with a hotel, because, like I was saying, with Turner Fleischer, one of the other development that they were looking at was to build a Ritz-Carlton down on the peninsula, right? But he never got moving. Many things went wrong. We had the trucker, the Fergus truck who were cutting the road, and so many things went wrong with that whole thing. It didn't work right. What is the niche that St. Kitts and Nevis would like to see that they have? Because tourism is not the market for the rest of the world today for you. It's a part of. But what is there for your children? How much hotels can your children work in? As housekeeping, what? Gardener, what else? What else is there for them? What is really a robust industry that you could bring to your community to grow, that will attract those to come and do business with you that they have to pay significantly for. If these things go down that's taking place, and here comes August 13 around the corner, and these islands aren't where they're at, you're looking at an impact at your cruise ships, your American airlifts into the region, and many of the other companies that sits within the territory that has some sort of American affiliation that's going to face a different wrath of what they're going to be doing. How do we bridge that before we get there? The question is, if the country is working with its people and being forthcoming, upright with the issue, yes, we did this, we will fix it, and this is what we're going to do, and we empower or engage Interpol and the Department of Homeland Security, it shows good faith. The fear of the United States right now is those individuals that are sitting, we call sleeping cells and so forth, throughout the United States, and what they have the capability of doing, and they're foolish. Many parts were shipped into these countries, our Caribbean islands. Many parts in a boat form, a nut, a plate, metal plate. Nobody knew what was going on for years, but they were bringing things in pieces. In pieces. So a package comes through, it have a big metal plate. What's that? You figure just a big metal plate. Nobody knew that these were devices sent to different Caribbean islands and then shipped into different Caribbean islands where the manufacturing is taking place. The BRICS is strong, and it's a means of, because of course, you know, the American dollar is less than the UK, as you know, is less than the euro, you know that. So the strength of a dollar is not what it is. It is the backdoor of what's happening where the US is clawing back, and a lot of the funds they've been providing the US aid and other areas where they were using it to plan a plan that they thought the United States was asleep, with a military base, they built in the South Shore of Africa. They brought to China, to Canada, to Mexico, and the Caribbean basin, which is the A frame of what their master plan is. I'm saying it here today, the A frame, because of where we are situated. Yes, we have the borders of Mexico and Canada, but the interceptors, right? The Caribbean was one of those areas where they said, well, nobody's studying this region and we could work things through and get things in, which they've been doing. They got a lot of them into the United States by way of a program that has now become a digital, a warfare application. When I was explaining the other day that we were up to DEFCON, we're down to DEFCON 3 in the war table. It's 5 is okay, 4, we'll get ready. 3, the US Air Force is dropping bombs, right? 2, we are almost at nuclear holocaust, and 1 is the finale of everything. We were in DEFCON 3 in the world. What does the CARICOM or the Caribbean nation know about these aspects of discussion? If Iran did something different, and of course a retaliation of other things took place, who knows? Just the mere fact that one might have been launched, who knows what would have happened? So we now have to know, is there bunkers? Are there bunkers in St. Kitts or and Nevis? No, none in the U.S. Virgin Islands in case of fallouts. What's the preparation that we are? Where are we in the event that we get there? Nothing's been looked at to that end. You know why? Because once anything is declared, every single one of them that have been in some authority of the government have residence elsewhere. And some of them have passports elsewhere too. So when this Nigeria move and so forth is taking place through the Caribbean, but one does not realize or known, based on what's happening with the federal government with them as well, there is a lot of chain of things coming. Even the young president of Africa, I forget his thing, the trio, he is now having the right discussions. You cannot destroy yourselves or ourselves because of a feeling. We have to be strategic in our plans and our direction as far as what we don't want to get into is warfare. What side of the aisle do we want to be on if we get there though? Because at the end of the day, yes, we have our own identity, but we still need the sovereignty and ability of independence. Imagine now that the superpower is taking over. If you're in China, you can't even have your internet server that goes outside to send out messages. You can't do that, right? You cannot. And then you look at the trend of things that's coming forward with, I tell you, and I'm saying it's going to spiral with Trinidad and Venezuela pretty shortly. It's going to happen. I'm not saying I guess it's going. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. Somebody will engage and it's going to happen. So how do we fix ourselves? What are we made of? And then we look at our children and watch them growing and say, okay, what do we have planned for them? Because they are tomorrow for you and I. Because we don't get to the age where once a man, twice a child, we don't get there. What is it that we want them to be able to have that takeaway with as far as what they can do to enhance our homes going forward? Why are we implicated in warfare discussions? This is when the Secretary of State took a stand, we're at a point that we're talking about warfare. Not because you feel like just taking a stand. The CBI people, if these people are clean, do what they want, that's up to the country to defend itself. But what's coming through under the program has now drawn the attention of the United States as well as the detriment and danger. So BRICS is as far as Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. But the numbers as far as the affiliation for the BRICS program, as you saw, India is beginning to really push it forward again, right? Nothing wrong with the program. But it's what's under the program that they're trying to accommodate as well in a smart way, right? That says we are united, nothing wrong with having your allies, but we are uniting, and the object behind a different superpower is what the main plan is. Go ahead and have the BRICS. It's not a problem. Grow your economy based on a robust plan. Not a problem. But the discussions that you're not hearing behind the doors, though, as far as what those affiliation means, using a lot of U.S. resources. And that's the part that is the objection and the cutoff before we get there. And to make sure that what's the sovereignty of safety of the United States is protected. Your dollar could be more than the U.S. You go back to ALBA. You remember ALBA? ALBA was a program that was created many years ago. I see you smiling, so you know what I'm talking about. Was Chavez for Venezuela working with Cuba and some of those other Hispanic nations. The OECS countries joined ALBA. You realize that? They joined by applying their GDP, their gross domestic product, to the ALBA attempt to have the Sucre become a 25 cents over the US dollar, right? But it wasn't the entire plan that was explained. You could create the ALBA and do what you want, right? Because it was Venezuela and Brazil. So you see what's going on here with this trend. It is how they were going to be able to perform and infiltrate the United States. Those days are done gone. It's way gone. There's no infiltration to be done, but it's now growing a market that you can sustain your own independence and ability to take care of your own sovereignty. That's what it is. But the warfare side of it, gentlemen, is the part that is not being explained in the approach to these markets and what the intentions are. Well, all the fabrications that are in China are moving back, American fabricators back to the United States. Now, China is trying to now come to the table to have the discussion. Because now, China in its strength, because they have a lot of things, they do, but they don't have the armada that the United States have as far as technology to another level, right? You get a patent for one or two things, but there's many more. So when you see the United States is at a DEFCON position, and now coming to the Caribbean as far as what we did and try to educate, listen, we're not saying you cut your ties. We're saying you be guarded by what you're allowing to pass through a program, and the program where they go to Barbados and they get the visa. You control that with your citizenship. They don't say that it's a Chinese residents or Iranian or whatever. They say they're St. Kitts and Nevis citizens. And those are those what you have down in Cuba that they ain't tell you all about. That's in Guantanamo Bay, that's there, but they ain't saying what's going on. And when you learn of what these people are involved in, right? A lot of them are Chinese and Iranian and other nationalities, but they are under the provision of a St. Kitts and Nevis passport. How did they get through? Because they have track records that go way beyond but the Bible. How did they get by that? If the due diligence was done, these people would have never been issued, never would have been issued, or should not have been issued a citizenship under the CBI program or the St. Kitts, St. Lucia, and all of these countries, Dominica and all of them. This should not have happened. But the majority of those guys in Guantanamo Bay from St. Kitts, of a citizenship of St. Kitts and Nevis, what does it say for your country? What does it say? Is it about just making the money and forget about whatever else there is? If you go into, and I wouldn't call the names, those would be for many reasons, but if you go into the track record of what just one of those individuals, right? And how many people they have killed, all right? And where they got the devices from and so forth. And they came through and got into the United States from facilitating processes of St. Kitts and Nevis. But the United States was, oh, well, it's okay because, it's St. Kitts. No. So no. We had 9/11. We had Pearl Harbor. From 9/11 realizing what transpired, because some of them came to the Caribbean. You guys remember that? To the United States. That's sleeping so close to home. This is the backyard, our backyards, right? So close to home. When there's a plan in place that the first target, if these guys get engaged, and that's why there's an armada that's sitting right within the Caribbean, a lot of people can't see because they're way out in the sea. An armada, not just 2 vessels, they're an armada, because the targets that are being discussed is the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. Now, the thing is, we are peaceful people, Caribbean people. We want to live a good life, and our children be able to love where they come from and where they live and enjoy that. But we got to keep them so that they can actually aspire to be productive people. And through the CBI program, so many homes could build for them. No petition and division should have to work based on the program that you have under the CBI program. The only thing that will happen, and the doctor is on the line with us, is they will become obese because they'll be home sitting down and getting fat, right? But we could do something better, right? So, like I said, Grenada alone, the United States spent over $134 million to protect the Grenadians, where the other OECS countries didn't have the ability to join the ranks to defend a CARICOM country, an OECS country. You couldn't defend your own. But we're talking about going up against superpowers, because we say what? For the CBI, because we're making millions of dollars, billions of dollars for some people and hiding it away from your own people who we should be taking care of. Rational and reasoning, rhyme and reason must be the fundamental. Any country that does not understand its worth and its ability to grow and take care of your own, and even you're dead, then you have no formula for life to continue in your own home, because you have homes other places. I hold it for now, guys.
Gentlemen, we're definitely on overtime at the moment. Mr. Bente, you know how I feel about overtime. But Dr. Alexander, I'm going to give you a chance to respond to Mr. Bente. I'm going to drop a song and give you guys a chance to do your closing. I'm getting out of here. I'm on overtime.
Okay. Mr. Bento, yeah, you really drop a thesis there. Like me respect for you expanded, right? But it still left me with a very deep question. Who do you identify as, Caribbean or American?
Caribbean.
You sure?
I'm 100%.
Okay, 100%. All right.
And that is why I'm taking my time to be here to also infuse what I know that could have been an easy solution. That's why the meetings were being had.
Come on, I totally appreciate that. I'm just making sure I got your perspective, not just for me, but for the viewers I see now.
Yeah, I'm Caribbean. Mm-hmm.
Right. And you're familiar with the bear pigs?
Yes.
Okay, you reference it. And you're familiar with the New Jewel movement?
Yes.
Right. So, because I hear you saying that America went in there because we as brothers weren't able to protect, but the reason when they went in, the reason for the invasion was to protect the students there at the U.S. school.
Well, that too, but also remember, and let's give it to her, Eugenie Charles of Dominica. She became the torch, because even though there was...
who you might call a torch, because you gotta remember there are two sides to it. Yeah? Other people might just see as a sellout. I can just leave that, but hold on, let me finish. Okay. And then you mentioned Guantanamo Bay, yes. Right? You did, right?
Yes.
Where's Guantanamo Bay?
Cuba.
Right, but the U.S. has a prison in Cuba.
Yes.
Because I hear you mention about back door and in people's backyard, but the U.S. have occupied that Cuban space for years now. That is against all international rules.
Yes. And you know that Cuba gets a subsidy for it. You know they get a subsidy for it.
That's like you coming, checking up. That's like you coming, running me up my house, moving into my house, and then give me a rent.
But go back to the agreement before the whole conspiracy of what we would call communism. Let's go back before that, right? That was an agreement because of positioning, just like Antigua is a great position for warfare, right? It was a strategic position for warfare just in the event. No one knew that they would have gone to communism discussion because of what transpired. And back then, everybody you couldn't get a phone call right away.
Agreed. Even more reason for them to get okay. If you're saying, I moved in to help you, and now you and I don't agree. You and I don't have the same views, the same religion. I need to get out, not I need to make myself permanent.
But you know the president doesn't want them to leave. That infusion is too significant as far as payments. You know what you pay? You know what you pay to be there? You want to hear the numbers?
We can leave that one. But in terms of the discussion now, in terms of wrap up again, Mr. Marsha, I want to
not wrap up yet. Not wrap up yet. I want us to build our nation, and then I'm going to give you a chance to wrap up.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, that's it in terms of my. I wouldn't even call them rebuttals, but in terms of what Mr. Bentus.
But remember, you started with Jenny Charles. You wanted to find out a little more about Jenny Charles and what she did. Yes, it was about protecting U.S. citizens, and many Caribbean military personnel was activated as well. Even those who had finished their services, they're trying to.
Gentlemen, let me interject here.
Yeah.
During the Grenada invasion, I was with the Virgin Islands National Guard. I was at Fort Buchanan in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
We was gearing up to go into Grenada. Before we could depart from our base, we received a call to stand down. The job was done.
Marines was on the ground.
The SEAL team took care of that. Mr. Alexander, I walk around quietly because that is my demeanor. That's how my grandparents taught me. I don't have to tell everybody about my life. I'll leave you with that. I'm going to drop a track.
I could have picked up that long time. I could have picked up that from the first day I meet you. I know this is a soldier. From the first day I met you, I said this is a soldier. I was going to ask if you were police or if you were police, but I just never asked.
All right. So we're going to take a listen here to my boy, brother Star Shield. This one is our nation pride.
When we blaming the politicians for everything that go wrong, we are far away from self-realization. For politics has its season, but prosperity has a price. And to build a progressive nation, we must pay the sacrifice. And the sacrifice of our leaders is to obey the one above, not to live for the love of power, but by the power of love. And the sacrifice of our people when every election done is come together and work with cooperation and change and stand up and build this nation. Yes, it's time to uplift our nation and disregard all our differences in party affiliation. For if we want this land to be a land of peace and prosperity, then we let unity abide for the sake of our nation's pride. Taking over we land is because it's supposed to be failing, and it's we who mash up our banks, and it's we who are the oppressors to the citizens of our lands, and we divide it in every situation. Take a good look at the Syrians, how they're prospering in this land. Under any administration, they unite with cooperation. But my people are so divided on this little rock in the sea that our sportsmen just have to suffer. when they come from the country. That is why all our teams are failing, but we keep our sportsmen down. So let's forget all this regional division and change and stand up and build our nation. Together we lift our nation. Yes, and disregard all petty differences and regional confusion. For if we want this land to be a land that reigns with supremacy, then we let unity abide for the sake of our nation's pride. Progress was found in calypso songs, when we used to sing songs of success and for blessings to our land. Now we cussing and spreading rumor to degrade others' character, but this should not be a part of our culture. So I said this word in calypso that our children would understand, and calypsonians would remember when they sit down to write their songs. That when you point your finger at another, it's three pointing back at you. So when you degrade your own brother, you degrade your own self too. For the greatest crown of the nation is the crown of a nation's pride. So in unity we all should abide. Oh yes, let's stand up and build this nation. It's time to uplift our nation. Yes, and disregard all our differences. Let us work and live as one. For if we really, really want this land to be a land of pride and integrity, then let's put all these things aside and save our nation's pride. I said to save our nation's pride. Save our nation's pride. Now come on, politicians, save our nation. Wipe out all this division between the country and tongue. Calypsonians come build this land. We gonna stop pulling each other down. Yes. Let's save our nation.
Sound of the King Starship there. That one is our nation pride. These guys sing these songs so many years back, and those songs like today. Yes, Brother Godfield, your closing.
I really enjoyed, I can't even call it the debate, the conversation and the depths of it. And because I'm in the company of men with such wit, like I really love the places it went, because I would never thought that they would have gone there. And that's why now I could come to these reunions without even preparing. Before I would have this and be thinking what's on my mind and having pause and cues, and now I could just come and really enjoy the conversation. Because like I would have never thought we'd have speak about Grenada today and the geopolitics of the Caribbean, because these are discussions we need to have going forward. But I really want to say this in closing, in that, Mr. Benta, I'm trained in Cuba. I don't even like to say it in that way. In that, I think myself and maybe a few others really dived into the depth of what is Cuba beyond the geopolitics of it, right? So even when you talk about Alba, when I arrived in Cuba, there was the Cuban peso, which is like everybody's national currency, and miraculously, the US dollar was circulating there quite freely, because, again, well, I didn't understand it then, but again, you could read those things in book, but when you live it like in a place of Cuba, with that density, you're forced to learn it unless you come back home and be persons like who we're dealing with now. In that that circulating that went against everything I thought. And then I had to understand afterwards that everything in this world is bought in US currency. So I understood dollarization. And afterwards, that's the first place I heard that term, dollarization, is in Cuba. I went there to study economics. Like Cuba understood that you had to be a well-rounded and holistic doctor. So you had to understand the propensities and the idiosyncrasies of everybody. So I understood what was dollarization, and then you hear OPEC and the oil. So once your currency is what everybody needs to buy, and then you control petrocarbon, which is what everybody is fueled by, every industrial state, everything. You basically, that's how you become a superpower, when you control certain resources that the world needs. So we had Rome, Britain, and now we have the US. So we're speaking in terms, and Mr. Bento used the term superhero, I mean superpower. But we're entering a world now where those terms are going to be obsolete, where we don't have to think about being super powerful or the most powerful over each other, because everybody's just going, we're going to be separated into humans and humans who are being, like the conscious and the unconscious. It won't be, and the internet we provide for that, the internet that everybody's afraid of and the AI that everybody's afraid of, is going to keep us in check. It's not going to take over. It can't take over because we are the creations of God. But it's going to keep us in check. So a lot of what we're afraid of, it's going to be the fail-safe. So we're entering a world where we don't have to see each other as being better than. Because again, if we think about China, China will just be another superpower, another empire, and they're going to colonize, and they're already colonizing. So we can't think of anybody but the US. Or anybody but Russia. We can't think in those paradigms anymore, and I don't think the leadership that we needs to think in those paradigms, and the discussions can't be around those paradigms, because those paradigms are so lead, they're artificial, they're not natural. They don't, and I don't, it sounds highfalutin and to talk about love, but it is, because again, when people think about the impossibility of everything, we are born to mothers and fathers that do anything for us, and that goes against everything. As some people say, you don't trust people. We have family that we could trust, and that's not about money. So when everybody tells you about everything is about exchange and everybody does something for something, when we talk about the intrinsic love that we feel as human beings and we practice every day, when we bump into strangers and we don't kill them or take the money, and we help them and we give advice and we give directions, those are the parts of us that are working every single day. So I don't want us to move past that. So I was telling you about the dollarization and the fact that was circulating because Cuba had to. And again, the people were sending back money because, again, Fidel had this way of what would be a con, making it into a po. So he understood how the US was allowing any Cuban to come. And when you get there into El Dorado, you must have gold, send back gold. So when there were issues now with more embargoes and the US now targeting areas that like understanding that if you're buying this product, you may be buying francs or buying other money, but you're still getting US products, like really strapping down. Cuba did something that I thought was impossible. They created another currency, a third currency, that was the US equivalent. And then slowly but surely, it became obsolete, so you couldn't use the US dollar. So it taught me, even on the level where I couldn't understand it, that, hey, as a government, as an administration, as something that people say is continuous, you could look out for what's the best is people. Even if you're standing up against a superpower like the US, you could do what's best. Because Fidel made that change, and then all of a sudden there was no more US in Cuba. It was illegal. Illegal. They had the US surplus, and then by whatever mechanisms, they were now going through cabinet, through Canada now with a greater liaison now, and just buying Canadian. Are using products just like how BRICS are using. So when you spoke of BRICS, I saw Fidel and the Cuban administration, socialist communist government, practicing a lot of what other governments now are taking on as the norm and moving towards. So Cuba was already practicing that in a little way. You know, sometimes they fail, but that's the thing about the island state that I like to make us feel like is a disadvantage. Fidel will have a dream tonight, and tomorrow declare it in a speech. And just like how we have government here that looks slow, everything will be in place by the next time. And they will learn on the cusp. So I know these things are possible. I know that we're not supposed to be pretending and having this theater of all is right. We could be upfront and transparent with our people and say, hey, no, I need you to pull up your socks. And that example is not only gleaned from Fidel, the example is gleaned from Bradshaw. I've heard his speeches when he nationalized the factory and nationalized all the land. I heard him speaking to his people and telling them, oh, you are not doing enough. It now belongs to us, and telling them the numbers. The same people, like, you know, we have this kind of stereotype when we talk about the sugarcane workers couldn't read it. I've spoken to sugarcane workers. They've told me that that's a man that would come and let them know I'm going to England next week. Because he used to have to go and argue the price in England, argue the price in Antigua. It wasn't a negotiation just with the sugar barons here who are our people who are against us and trying to squeeze what's the little 1%. He also had to fight with Great Britain. So the sugarcane workers told me about Bradshaw coming to them. Now, and no pedestal coming and explain to them. I have to go. So who understood didn't understood, and those who understood could be able to transfer it in whatever language to other person, but they understood that they were inclusive of the decision making. So when people come after a trip, months after, and we still haven't heard, and we hear glaring, when we hear the public talk, micromanaging in certain areas and glaring things that Mr. Benter speak about tonight, that are geopolitical, global, and far-reaching and for everlasting, are being brushed down at the table. We want to know what kind of leadership is that you're not, you can't be transparent about JNF. You can't be transparent about our CBI and on the greater part of our GDP, and you can't be transparent about what's active and ongoing in now. So who are we?
Yes. You know, I grew up, so you know, my mother worked in the sugarcane field in Antigua. And you'll be amazed what sugarcane husk and so forth can make for a shelter in terms of weather while you're in that field, right? But you know, learning how to work the locomotive, we call it loco in those islands, and understanding what it was to see what our Caribbean people had to go through, especially when the time came where we should have been at another level. We allowed for the others to continue to drag them, believing that you're still inferior. And at the end of the day, when you saw these things as a little boy, and I made a commitment to myself and my mother as a little child, a single parent, that yes, even my father was a bastard as he was, he never spent a dime on me. But I said to my mom when I saw her cut herself with one of the bills, right? When she cutting cane. And I said, Mommy, I'm going to take care of you. She hugged me, gave me a kiss, and said, okay, go back in the shade, right? Back into the whatever have you. Where she's bleeding, you know, from a cut from the bill. But you got to go back to where and understand where you came from. And I think our humbleness, and everyone here is humble, they can see, our humbleness takes us into many categories of education and understanding what the dynamics are, how to work those trivial moments, to understand that we came from somewhere. And when I sat with Mr. Sadler from Monkey Hill, Mr. Sadler, when he was telling me the stories, because he was a supervisor, right as kids, he was a supervisor there in the sugarcane industry, and explaining certain things to me, while I sat there on a bench in Monkey Hill and listened to him explain, and to hear what he had to do to take care of his family, like everybody else. How can we forget those things? So how do we walk forward? Because we're walking backwards right now, you know. We had the forward movement, and somehow we got derailed. The train fell off the track, and we have lost our way, and we're walking backwards to go back to see if we could find something back there that doesn't exist right now. How do we take our people forward from believing that they're still in bondage, that they're still subservient to individuals because they may have degrees in this, or they may have Mr. So-and-so. And so we got to change that aspiring division that we have and say that we are all one people, one family, and one nation under God. Otherwise than that, the who's, the haves becomes those that says that you do what I say, when I say, how I say, whatever I say, no matter when I say it. And that got to change because, like you said, our young minds today, they're so far beyond. Because years ago, it used to be a thing when the newspaper come in, it takes how long to get to you, or when something coming from away news, it takes so long before you hear it. Today, you're hearing it now for now, right? It's immediate. So I want to thank you guys this evening. I hope that you're back next week. But I just could not leave this time without even talking about the new organization for the group. And I want, if Mr. Mauricio, can you tell me it again? I want the people to hear it. What's the name of that? What's the name of the affiliation?
The Citizens Empowerment Coalition.
And in that, I see two of my two ministers' possibility that's on the line with me tonight. Now, we're going to sing it or speak it into existence like it should be spoken. Because standing back now, because you've actually moved towards getting it done, there's no reason to stay behind the curtain and not act on it. I am so pleased to be a part of this discussion in this podcast, and I wish and I pray upon all of you and each of you. I wish you Godspeed with God-fearing and strength and definite abundance of blessing in your endeavors going forward. May God bless all of you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I want to take this time out to thank the good folks there, the good water people there, Island Purified Water, Main Street, Newton Gown, St. Kitts. I want to thank Brother Scatter and his team there for keeping the DJ hydrated when he's in the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis. You know, I try not to speak about this young man, but this past Monday, July 7th, would have made my good brother there, Winston Constantine Edwards, aka Lord Black, the Buffalo Soldier, as we know him to be Const Edwards, would have been celebrating his 76th birthday this past Monday. But the tragedy that took place in 24 still cannot get any response from a government, police, and everyone else that have failed him and his family. Today, July 9th, 2025, marks 343 days since Cans went missing on August 1st, 2024. 343 days. 334 days since he was found in a gut site in the Saddlers Mountain, dead on August 9th. And I think everyone knows the history behind that. I didn't want to coordinate the search that morning. We found him within an hour of that search. 322 days since his funeral on August 21st. Several letters were sent to the Ministry of Health with requests to have certain things put in place so that we don't have this problem again. More than 45 weeks since those letters went to the Ministry of Health. To date, I get all kinds of stories from the Prime Minister that there's something in place that they're trying to work on. The PS give me the same story, but to date, nothing from the police or the Ministry of Health. Now, my good people, August 1st is around the corner again. I am wondering if these individuals are going to wait for us to clear a full year before something is done. Look how many people has been through the same scenario since Cans, 300 and some odd days ago. The recent disappearance of that 15-year-old. We know what went down with that. 1 minute she was missing, 2 days later, police put out a notice. A week later, they organized a search. The day of the search, they approved a street jamming for music festival instead of dealing with finding the young lady. The police gave report that they know she was still alive because they have good intel that she was in contact with individuals. They gave a 7,000 EC reward with information leading to her discovery. We then found out some days later that her decomposed body was found in the Whitegate area here in my area. My good people, we have a lot of work to do. It's not about politics. The DJ is speaking out because while we are here, we have to do our part to build our community. We have to do our part to help our country grow. We are enjoying life today because of the people in the past that have put themselves out of the way for us. We are here now. It's not just about a jump up, a barbecue, a music festival, who is the best artist, who can put on the best clothes, who got the best wig. It's not about that. It's about leaving a legacy behind for who to come. Just as they say, government are continuous, life is continuous. We are just passing through. So I'm calling on all citizens, all hands on deck. Let's demand better representation from whoever is elected to represent us. Tonight, I want to big up my folks there, guys like Romeo Paris Pharmacy, the Westbourne got Bastis and Kids, the man Tango over there, Tango Tire Shop in Westbourne got as well. Fritz, Jeff Fritz and Sons Enterprise there in Molyneux Village, Fritz Bakery there in Borio. My boy Carbo over there, Nevis. We got Smart Fit clothing store there on Central Street, right next to Skelec, Sister Gloria. My good people, I'm going to drop the unofficial anthem of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. This one is called Arise by the late great, the King Arrow. I am not going to get into much more hail ups tonight because I am definitely past my time here, my time slot. And anytime I sit with Mr. Benter, you can bet at any given time I'll be doing some overtime. So Mr. Benter, you have some energy, sir. And with Dr. Garfield, the energy just gets stronger. So, Sister Hazel, good night. This one is called Arise by the late great King Arrow.
Your country dying and never lend a helping hand. Would you see your children's future dwindling, creating much disillusion? Or would we watch on idly, disregarding our self-sufficiency? Maladministration wrecking all I know. I said no, not at all. Citizens, let's unite and stand up for rights, all our lives and our lives. Let us reintegrate and correct our mistakes. Reunification, building a brand new nation. We'll move on together, hand in hand. Rise, citizens, arise. The country is yours. All yours, still yours.
Oh yeah. Let's get service. Love every day.
Would you assist building a wall so massive or a bridge? Don't care how small, as one tends to divide our people, the other unite us all. Unambitious men just cannot be a part of this community. Displaying selfishness, a total lack of interest. unification, building a brand new nation. We move on together hand in hand. Rise, citizens, arise. The country is yours, all yours, still yours. Can your conscience be clear? Indulging corruption or misusing public office, being accused of unemployment and crimes, or disrupting a citizen's peace. Oh, my country in this harmony, separated politically. Hatred for a brother, cannot love each other. No, I say no, not at all. Citizens, let's unite and stand up for rights, all our lives and our lives. Let us reintegrate and correct our mistakes. Reunification, building a brand new nation. We'll move on together hand in hand. So rise, citizens, arise. The country is yours, all yours, still yours.
Yes, that's the sound of the late great King Ira. That one is called Arise. I want to say good evening to my mascot there, Sister Dorothy Allen. I see you online as usual, tracking me down. I want to big up Sister Gwyneth Marisha there, Beverly Marisha. How about my sister there, Esther Passad Hutchinson there in Tartolo, Muckish and the kids, hope all is well. My son there, Jeffrey Jr. in the LA area, Sister Jazz. How about my daughter, Rochelle Marisha there in the what Ohio area there? How is the grandkids? Hope all is good with you guys. Brother Alexander and Brother Benta, you guys have anybody you want to say good evening to before you log out?
I want to say good night to every single petition and division. The people of the Virgin Islands, I want to say good night to you because you have a lot of people from the VI that's listening as well. And the entire Caribbean diaspora as well too. I know Kent Bernier is listening somewhere along the way as he normally does. I know that we have the Crucian Educator, we have Paula, we have many people that's listening. And I say to everyone who's there that this program, as you've been following for many years, that you continue to really support and listen to where this body is taking it tonight. So good night to everybody. Thank you.
Well, Alexander, have anything you want to say? Your mic is closed.
Yeah. The same thing. Like I've been getting a lot of support. I don't need support. I just need everybody to just stand up in your own way. All of you in the civil service that know what you're doing, know what you're standing nightly by and watching and doing. Yeah, they put a stop to it. Yeah, because you could see is we suffering. I can understand some people will get entrenched because they got lots of zeros behind their accounts. And as much as I wanted to come on here and blast, I'm just going to allow it to implode. But I only could send out that word of warning to those who I know, just on the cusp of just saying, yeah, I've had enough. Just, yeah, go ahead, had enough. And I want to spend a special good night now to Andrew Asibatis. That's it.
All right, sir. Thanks. Good evening to Sister Nelta Robinson. How are you doing, Sister Lynn? And my partner there, Brother Austin Williams, the dancing commissioner. Good night, Brother Julian Pemberton and crew, the man Luther Kelly. So my good people, I want to big up Brother Jeff Pemberton there over in the UK. He's been on my case all night looking for the link. Also want to touch the man there, link, and he's that Glenn Barrow, my uncle there, Joseph Emmanuel down there at Garvey's estate. So as we get out of here, gentlemen, thanks for joining me. I look forward to yet another conversation. Great conversation this evening.